He even gets mesmerized watching Pioneer's programs right in the middle of work. Earth collapsed like a game whose servers had been shut down, and with it all life gradually vanished. Amid that chaos, an unnamed omnipotent being bestowed a single solution: transference to other worlds. Heroes left Earth and entered other realms. They were called pioneers. The life force they brought back was what sustained the fragile existence of the new humanity. Among those people was a special young man, the protagonist of this story, named Chansu. Chansu's father had once been one of the highest-ranking pioneers. However, as Earth's situation worsened, he had to depart for another world once more and never return. Chansu's mother refused to live alone, deciding to search for her husband, but she vanished in the end. Now, Chansu makes a living with a simple job. He does whatever he's asked, but his heart is always turned toward distant worlds. If you're not working, what are you standing there for? Young people these days are full of problems, always lost in pointless fantasies. The owner's reminder made Chansu quickly lower his head, eyes filled with guilt. He immediately ran to clear the tangled vines on the road. Having been reprimanded on his first day, he felt even more confused. He immediately ran to clear the tangled vines on the road. Having been reprimanded on his first day, he felt even more confused, afraid he might be fired. With just a few practice strikes swinging left, then right, a little up, then a little down, a little up, then a little down, Chansu quickly dealt with the vines neatly. The owner stood beside him, mouth agape, staring at his skillful technique. In moments, everything was cleaned up, leaving no trace of the mess. Chansu exhaled in relief, though his expression remained sorrowful. Other worlds would probably remain a distant dream for him. His gaze landed on the sickle in his hand. A fleeting thought crossed his mind. Could he become someone like that? Setting aside all doubts, Chansu headed straight to the Transference Support Center. After jostling through the crowded stream of people, he finally reached the staff desk. I wanted to ask if there's any progress on the search job. The clerk typed on the keyboard, eyes fixed on the screen. After a moment, cold words appeared on the computer. The deposit for the family search is still insufficient. Chansu froze when he heard the clerk's next words. Mr. Chansu, this isn't a charity. Come back when you have the full payment. Before he could react, a thug shoved him aside with a light push, weighed down by fatigue and disappointment. He trudged back, footsteps heavy. Back home, old habits hadn't changed. Even alone, he still called out the familiar greeting. I'm home. In the dark space, Chansu sat quietly, reminiscing about the past, the lost figures, the fading memories. Sadness rose like a great wave, but suddenly, a beam of light shone in through the window. He hurriedly opened the door, and before him was a blinding shaft of light, pouring down brilliantly. The terrible pressure from the light knocked Chansu backward, his head hitting the wall. He lost consciousness for a moment, and couldn't react in time. After a while, Chansu came to, cursing inwardly. What the hell just happened? His head pounding as if it would explode. The clock read 8 o'clock, and an emergency alert flashed on the screen. An S-rank pioneer has retired. He froze, his heart racing. A trembling voice came over the phone. A man, his body wrecked by injuries, uttered his final words. In the end, because I couldn't protect the deity, all the accompanying pioneers were sacrificed. I had to return alone. Now I've lost all my powers and can no longer make a transference. After much thought, I've decided to retire. Please, everyone, protect Earth, don't lose your courage. This news immediately became a headline. The press conference turned into breaking news that shook the world. Chansu stared silently at the screen, sinking inward. A failed mission wasn't enough, now retirement too? Suddenly, a knock sounded outside. Knock, knock, knock. Cutting through the tangled stream of thoughts in Chansu's head, he frowned and stood up to open the door. Who would be knocking at this hour? Before him was a rabbit, a plump rabbit with upright ears, snowy white fur, clutching a glowing iPad. It lifted its head, its mouth twitching. You're Mr. Chansu, right? Is this your home? When the door creaked open, no person was in sight, only a quiet hallway, wind drifting through with a chill. Chansu was briefly puzzled. Could someone be playing a prank? Mr. Chansu, over here. The childish but clear voice came from below. Chansu startled and bent down. Mr. Chansu, The surreal sight before him stunned Chon-Su. He collapsed to the floor, nearly fainting. In his head there was only one thought. I'm dreaming. This has to be a dream. But the plump rabbit paid no mind to his panic. It tapped rapidly on the iPad screen while chattering on, "You're Chon-Su, right? Congratulations." The rabbit's eyes curved, its tone excited as if announcing lottery results. "You've officially become a pioneer." Chon-Su, flustered, stammered. "Why, you just said what?" The plump rabbit nodded lightly, its ears perking in time with its speech. "I get it, you must be very confused." Then it reached into its coat, fumbled for a moment, and pulled out a shiny card, presenting it to Chon-Su. "But the truth is, you, Chon-Su, are the one chosen. If you're still doubtful, shall we go somewhere else to talk?" Before he could recover himself, the plump rabbit dragged him away. On the way, it hopped and cheerfully asked, "So, do you have any special talents?" Chon-Su sheepishly scratched his head. "I'm poor and idle, so I'm only good at cutting grass, picking flowers, and catching butterflies." The answer made the plump rabbit freeze. Its ears shot up, its mouth gaped, and its eyes nearly popped out. What?" It took a few seconds before it could compose itself, forcing out, It's nothing, everything happens for a reason. You're still the chosen one, Mr. Chon-Su, so don't worry." Chon-Su scratched his head, smiled shyly, and softly said thank you, his heart fluttering. He had never imagined he could set foot in the transference center. The final chance had finally arrived. One man and a rabbit standing before a grand, imposing door. Chon-Su took a deep breath, grabbed the handle, pulled hard, and pulled again, and once more, but the door didn't budge. The plump rabbit looked at Chon-Su like he was crazy. "What are you doing?" "The entrance is over here." Chon-Su stared at the door, frozen, his mouth twitching. "This is the entrance? Can't you see? This door is tiny, how are you supposed to get in?" The rabbit blinked a few times, then replied nonchalantly, "I can get in." Chon-Su sighed in resignation and turned away. "Forget it. I'm going home. Must be a prank." From behind came the plump rabbit's echoing voice. "Are you sure? You've failed many times and don't meet the transference requirements. Do you think you'll get another chance?" Chon-Su's steps halted. The rabbit hurried on, its tone a bit urgent. "Don't get me wrong. I just think it would be a shame if you left." Chon-Su frowned, pondered for a few seconds, then feeling some inner nudge, decided to turn back and follow the strange rabbit. It was just the act of squeezing through a tiny crack, hunching and wriggling, which made his face contort as if he'd bitten something spicy. In his imagination, the door to the transference center should have been a majestic passageway, divine and radiant with glory. Just as his head poked out of the gap, a brilliant beam of light flooded in. Chon-Su couldn't help but be surprised by the sight. Inside was a neat, bright room that looked no different from an ordinary administrative office. The plump rabbit spun around, beaming. "There's a world that's a perfect fit for you right now." Chon-Su widened his eyes. "Everyone has a matching world?" The rabbit pulled a card from its paw, fanning it like a show. "Of course, this is a cubic world system called Territory Conquest." "A cubic world?" Chon-Su jumped, almost blurting out. Seeing his surprise, the rabbit assumed he was familiar, but Chon-Su honestly replied, "I don't know." The rabbit froze, inwardly scolding. "Acting knowledgeable when you don't know." After muttering under its breath, the plump rabbit turned back to Chon-Su with a sweet smile as if nothing had happened. "Haha, so you didn't know? Lately that world has been a hot spot. Its standout feature is gods bestowing blessings." Hearing the word gods, Chon-Su immediately recalled the earlier shocking report. The man had also been a follower of a god, and unease crept into his chest. As if reading his thoughts, the rabbit waved its paw and explained, "Don't worry, the god in that world is completely different from what happened before." Chon-Su frowned. "So which god is it?" The rabbit grew more serious than usual. By rule, the assignment of gods is random, but then it suddenly shifted its eyes, ears perked up, its voice lowered as if revealing earth-shattering secret. "If you decide right now, you'll have the privilege of choosing." Saying that, it pulled out a stack of cards, its eyes glittering as if to tempt him. It held the cards out before Chon-Su. "What do you mean? What's your decision?" Chon-Su widened his eyes. He had no idea which to choose. Staring at the 3 cards, his hand trembling slightly, seeing him hesitate, The plump rabbit tilted its head and oozed sweetness. Mr. Chan-su, this is a once-in-a-millennium chance. What are you waiting for? Vague childhood memories rose up. The longing look for his father, his mother's retreating silhouette, the dream of becoming a pioneer to find his family again. A bell seemed to toll in his head. If he missed this chance, when would there be another? Why hesitate like an idiot? Chan-su took a deep breath and reached out. Okay, I choose. He gripped one of the 3 cards tightly and, hand shaking, flipped it over. Whoosh! A burst of black light exploded, within which pale skeletons whirled chaotically like fluttering ghosts in midair. Cold letters appeared on the card. Illegitimate deity 44%. Chan-su slumped to the ground, his face drained of color. The plump rabbit peered down and chuckled as if nothing serious had happened. Oh, come on. That was just the introduction. Why are you so shocked? Chan-su trembled, still clutching the card. What kind of deity introduction sounded like summoning the undead? Just the name felt like a bad omen. Illegitimate deity with a percentage, how is that supposed to be okay? Chan-su scratched his head, hesitating. Can I redraw? The plump rabbit grinned as if it had expected this. Sure, you can try as many times as you want, but the subsequent draws yielded the exact same result, and this time was no different. The card displayed the chilling line. Illegitimate deity 45%. Chan-su flew into a rage and pointed at the card, shouting, "This is clearly a scam. Why do I keep drawing the same kind of deity?" The atmosphere suddenly grew heavy. The rabbit's usual bright smile vanished, replaced by a grave voice. "You're mistaken. There's nothing wrong with this card. Understand?" Intimidated by the sudden intensity, Chan-su stammered. "I didn't mean the card was broken." The plump rabbit narrowed its eyes, each word landing with force. "This is the last time. Choose carefully." Chan-su shook, his palms sweating cold, silently chanting, "Please don't be that deity again. Please." At last he drew one final card. Boom! A brilliant blue light radiated unlike any before. Chan-su stared, eyes shining with hope. The card in his hand clearly read, Goddess of Prosperity 0.001%. Chan-su froze, then bit his lip, trembling. The effect seemed a bit weak, but that probability clearly marks it as a super rare card. An image of a breathtakingly beautiful goddess flashed unbidden through his mind, and drool of fantasy escaped the corner of his mouth. The plump rabbit beside him went dark-faced, puzzled by the lecherous, filthy look in his eyes. But in a moment it burst into radiant laughter, ears wagging excitedly, even more thrilled than Chan-su. "Mr. Chan-su, do you want one more chance?" Chan-su frowned and asked suspiciously, "If I pick this card, what happens?" The plump rabbit smiled briefly. Immediate departure. Departure. Before Chan-su could process it, it continued in an enchanting voice. "What are you hesitating for? This is your chance to become a pioneer, and later rise into the ranks of the returning ones. People will admire you, even see you as a savior. Think it through, Mr. Chan-su. An entirely different life is opening up before you." Chan-su lowered his eyes, fingers clenching. "Right, if I keep going like this." The announcement tone faded, and the space suddenly brightened. A vague figure appeared, a dignified goddess, radiant like jade. Chan-su's heart thudded, and another notification frame popped up. "Welcome, future pioneer." But the image only flashed briefly before vanishing in the light. Everything went quiet again. Chan-su was still stunned, mouth agape. Was that really the goddess of prosperity? After a moment, the corner of his mouth curled. Having that deity by his side felt like he could do anything. "Okay, so where do I go now?" Chan-su asked excitedly, his voice trembling slightly. Chan-su froze, staring at the vortex, with unease, his feet feeling glued to the ground. This thing looked sketchy. He hesitated and couldn't bring himself to step forward. The plump rabbit standing behind shook its head and suddenly popped. A light but precise kick to Chan-su's back. "You bastard rabbit!" Chan-su screamed as he was swept into the swirling light. The light swallowed him. Above, the plump rabbit stood watching as a cold voice rang out. "Why did you do that?" The rabbit didn't turn, eyes still on the vortex. "You know the rules, direct interference is forbidden." The voice sounded again, sharper this time. I told you not to miss it under any circumstances. Have you still not given up on your god? The rabbit's ears drooped and it pressed its lips. Of course not. At that moment, Chansu hovered in the vortex and a loading frame popped up before his eyes. Loading 78%. He blinked. Huh? Loading what? The next line appeared. The deity's percentage equals the power of its influence. Chansu felt like he'd been doused with cold water. What? Isn't that rarity? It's actually indicating strength? Before he could process it, the vortex hurled him down onto a gray, desolate land. Chansu clutched his head and ground his teeth. Now you decide to tell me. He looked up at the scene before him and laughed through his tears. Haha. Damn it, I'm dead for sure. A notification frame lit up, the words appearing line by line. Welcome to the cubic world of territory conquest. O Chansu, you are the apostle of prosperity. Conquer as much territory as possible by eating land. Chansu frowned, staring at the line. Don't tell me it's like this because the influence is weak. And what's with that typo? Am I really being screwed over? Not wanting to stand idly in this wasteland, Chansu decided to wander around to scout and hope to find the goddess's presence. After a while, his steps stopped. At his feet, among the withered weeds, lay an old sickle, abandoned and lonely as if left there long ago. Chansu bent down and picked it up, gripping the handle tightly as a strange sense of familiarity rose in him. At least this thing looks like something I know how to use. At that moment, a soft click sounded behind him. Chansu's whole body went cold, a chill crawling down his spine. Could it be a monster? He swallowed, tightened his grip on the sickle and told himself, I can't die like this. I haven't even met the goddess yet. With a desperate resolve, he swung the sickle, intending a quick, decisive strike. But the moment the blade flashed, his motion froze. Opposite him wasn't some terrifying monster, but a tiny hamster trembling so hard its round body rolled. Its teary eyes begged for mercy. Chansu gaped. This can be called a monster? It doesn't look fierce at all. Still, he tried to justify not letting the encounter go to waste. Monsters usually drop loot, right? If I catch it, before he finished, the little rodent puffed up its fur, tears welling, front paws waving wildly as if screaming for mercy. And Chansu couldn't help laughing. Fine, fine. No more teasing, just don't bring the whole pack and it'll be okay. Besides, looking closely, it was actually kinda cute. The little creature seemed to understand, sighed in relief, then hopped down and scurried away. Chansu raised an eyebrow in mild surprise. Oh, you're leaving? Before he could complain, the hamster stopped, turned to him, its round eyes bright and sparkling, chirped twice as if calling. Slightly surprised, Chansu pointed at himself. You want me to follow? The little rodent darted ahead like a gust of wind. Chansu panted, sweat pouring off him as if he'd been showered, running and cursing under his breath. So tiny but so fast. Where on earth is it headed? After a frantic chase, they finally stopped. The sight ahead thrilled the hamster like heaven found. Chansu stared, a clear stream gurgling through the bleak landscape. Without hesitation, he hurriedly took out his water bottle to fill it. Chansu gulped it down in one go, the coolness spreading through his body like climbing from hell to heaven. The little rodent matched him, plunging its head into the stream for several gulps, its belly puffing out. He sat on the grass, sighed in relief, then glanced at the rodent. Hey, do you live here? This place doesn't seem suitable for a hamster. Do you know where the goddess lives? That goddess of prosperity? The little creature paid it no mind. It crouched and meticulously licked its fur clean, shaking its ears as if ignoring the question. Chansu watched, musing, murmuring. It's a bit hard to talk to it, isn't it? Suddenly the rodent chirped urgently, its front paws repeatedly pointing in one direction. Chansu raised an eyebrow. Want me to follow you again? He reached out to touch it when a snapping sound rang out, and bending down, Chansu saw something at his feet, shaped like a ginseng root, with a clear, deep print where he'd stepped. Ginseng? Before he could react, the little rodent burst into a pitiful cry. It let out a long chirp and darted over, wrapping its tiny legs tightly around the ginseng like clinging to a loved one in distress. Chansu stood awkwardly, scratching his head and stammering. Sorry, was that yours? At that moment, the cold chime of a notification frame rang out. You have discovered the area's deity. The notification hovered before him, bewildering his expression. What? I discovered the goddess? So where exactly is she? Suddenly the little rodent, still crying, lunged forward and bit hard at Shansu's pant leg, tugging him somewhere. He bent to pick it up. The little creature thrashed wildly, eyes rimmed red as if about to burst with anger. Shansu said, I'm busy. Okay? I'll play with you in a bit. The rodent panicked and hurriedly pointed its paw at the ginseng root. Its front paws folded together over its chest, striking a pose like a deity. All four legs suddenly straightened, its body convulsed, face turned purple, and finally it went limp and rolled over, like it had just stopped breathing. Shansu stood frozen, watching the theatrical display as his complexion drained pale. His gaze trembled as he glanced down at the shriveled ginseng root lying on the ground. His throat tightened. The words broke out, stammering. Could it be? That shriveled ginseng is the deity? The root lay exposed on the dirt, its dull skin bearing the heavy imprints of footsteps. A few withered leaves scattered beside it, making it look even more pitiful. Shansu stared, his face growing ever more ashen, his lips trembling. Impossible, my goddess is supposed to be a deity of prosperity. How could she be a dried-up ginseng root? Just then, a faint pale blue light flickered around the ginseng. Thunder seemed to crash in Shansu's head. His heart pounded. What is that blue light? This must be a mistake, it has to be. It looks clearly like just ginseng. A memory involuntarily returned of the beautiful goddess of prosperity he'd seen before, resplendent, solemn, and blessed. Compared to that image, the goddess he saw couldn't possibly be that dull weed. Shansu brought his eye close to a magnifying glass, and the line below became clear. Image for illustration purposes only. In that moment, his whole world seemed to collapse. He sank to his knees beside the ginseng, hands clutching his head, utterly despondent. All those territory conquest games with their percentage numbers had actually been hidden omens from the start. Thinking back, he realized the percentage card had already ticked upward from the moment he drew it. He'd naively assumed it was a display bug. Who knew the real cause was the expansion of the domain? The more he recalled, the more Chansu trembled. Given how often it appeared, who would think it was a good card? He looked at the prosperity goddess's percentage stat and it clicked. The goddess turned into this because her domain had shrunk. Suddenly Chansu flinched. He realized the goddess, though trampled, still hadn't awakened, and a chill ran down his spine. Could it be? Did I just finish off a deity? Panic surged. Chansu frantically searched his pockets, pulled out the only water bottle left, hands shaking, and he poured it straight onto the ginseng. Strangely, the withered skin quivered. The brown, parched color slowly regained a hint of freshness, as if inhaling a breath of life. Chansu stared in disbelief. He immediately poured more water, desperately trying to salvage that fragile life. The little rodent stood by, front paws over its face, trembling all over. It chirped pitifully, eyes full of fear, as if witnessing a monstrous crime. Chansu cheerfully kept watering, heart pounding. The ginseng emitted a trembling stream of thoughts. So cool. Is it raining? It's been ages since I drank like this. Feels wonderful. Wait, that's too much rain. That's enough. Stop. At this rate I'll drown. I'll really die. The ginseng trembled and finally cracked open weary eyes. It looked more like someone who'd just been rescued from drowning than a revived god. Chansu and the little rodent brightened with joy the moment they saw it move. Chansu placed a hand on his chest, bowed at a 45-degree angle, and said respectfully, "Greetings. I am O Chansu, Apostle of Prosperity." When he finished speaking, he lifted his eyes slightly to look at his patron deity, but all that met his gaze was a wilted, exhausted ginseng root that could barely move. Chansu held out empty hands, smiling through tears, so helpless he didn't know what to do next. He skimmed his hand over the notification board and couldn't help blurting, "Oh, so there are unique skills?" Blessings of Prosperity had no description, but from the name he knew it must boost the harvest. Suddenly, another line appeared beneath Blessings of Prosperity. Beheading. How could the wind and abundance goddess grant such a brutal skill? Chansu stared trembling at the ginseng below and stammered, "Your Grace, that beheading skill, it's not what I think it is, right?" The ginseng remained silent, then slowly raised what could barely be called a crooked branch of a hand and drew it across its neck, clearly signaling, "Disciple, do as I say." Chansu forced his voice down, pointed at himself, and enunciated each word. "You mean you want me to behead it?" The ginseng folded its branches and nodded decisively. Chansu stood rooted, his mind in knots. If you think about it, a prosperity goddess is tied to agriculture, and agriculture naturally involves butchering livestock. So the beheading skill wasn't entirely absurd. The thought flickered through his head as he slowly turned, the little rodent still hopping cheerfully behind him, his plump body wobbling side to side in pure delight. But from behind, a gaze soaked in murderous intent had quietly locked onto it. The tiny body twisted and darted to escape. Tears streamed down its face as it, terrified, hurled itself toward the ginseng and hid behind it, trembling all over. Chansu took step after step closer. The little rodent clutched the ginseng, chittering non-stop, its eyes full of fear. But when he was only a single step away, both the root and the rodent started shaking. They turned and stared back at Chansu in panic. A chill crawled along his spine. Instinct urged him to turn around, and before his eyes a huge pitch-black foot had just come down on the ground, disgusting fluid dripping, the stench of rot assaulting his nose. Chansu froze. The sickle in his hand trembled. The little rodent burrowed closer into the ginseng, eyes watery, body rigid, and the air suddenly felt oppressively thick. A gigantic shape slowly materialized. It was a towering monster that looked like a ghost wrapped in black, mud-like cloth. Chansu fought to swallow the scream rising in his throat, gripping the sickle's handle so hard it shook. Across from him, the rodent and the ginseng huddled together, clinging to one another, their eyes glistening as if about to burst into tears. Suddenly the little rodent sprang up and, risking everything, stood between them, spreading its tiny legs to shield the ginseng. Chansu paused, a flash of realization in his eyes. So it's not the rodent that's the monster. I was wrong. He pressed his lips together, his grip on the sickle tightening. If that's the case, then the only enemy before them is that monster. Chansu took a deep breath, summoned the last of his courage, and lunged straight forward. Rapid footsteps thundered as he ran, eyes wide and searching for a weak spot. Good thing he could still tell where its head and neck were. At that moment, a notification frame appeared. You can activate the beheading skill. Once he was close enough, he swung the sickle to one side. The rusted sickle suddenly gleamed like a treasured blade, severing the monster's body and head. The head shattered into tiny, light-like particles and vanished. The remaining torso crumbled, collapsing like a sandcastle and soaking the ground. The little rodent and the ginseng couldn't believe their eyes. Chansu had managed to defeat the monster in a single strike. Chansu stepped back closer, looking at the still-stunned rodent and ginseng. He softly said, "Goddess, are you all right?" When his eyes landed on the little tear-streaked face of the rodent, it hit him like a thunderclap. That scrappy little rat, in that brief instant, it risked its life to stand between the goddess and danger. A rush of shame flooded him. Chansu immediately knelt, bowed his head deeply, and said earnestly, "I'm so sorry. I made a terrible mistake. Will you forgive me?" The little rodent glanced bewildered at the ginseng and chittered as if asking for its opinion. After a long moment, it turned back and raised a paw to signal agreement. Chansu stood up with a relieved smile. He scratched his head and, embarrassed, said, "I just thought of a name for you. What do you think? From now on we'll live together, so you need a name." The little eyes lit up and it chittered in agreement. The warm moment lasted only briefly before another notification appeared. With a skill effect, the header automatically transformed. The Undying Demon Hunt Event, 1-on-1. Chansu froze, staring at the line. He suddenly realized the monster earlier had been an undead demon. Before his eyes, the ginseng's once shriveled body was now plumped and smooth, its wrinkled skin seeming renewed, a faint glow passing across it, and he couldn't help but feel excited. If we keep doing this, she'll soon return to her prosperous form. I'm gonna chop some more. Man and rodent ran off together, as if they just discovered a leveling trick. Now that it worked, all that remained was to repeat it over and over. Climbing the barren hill, Chansu had no trouble spotting another monster like the one before, because this place, like the goddess, was withered and barren. Nothing left to hide behind. These points can be used for system world features and cannot be traded between players. Chansu muttered in confusion. Points? Since when did I have points? Before he could investigate, a noise rose behind him. A horde of monsters staggered closer. Chansu inhaled sharply, gripped the sickle handle, a faint grin on his lips. Lucky the skill is powerful enough and not hard to use. The monsters moved slowly. Once he timed the sickle across the neck, the head came off. The familiar prompt sounded. Skill activated. Beheading. He charged into the pack. He ran back and forth through the monsters, swinging the sickle constantly. Whichever one he hit was felled, whichever one he struck was cut down. Another notification chimed in his ear. Hunt monsters to earn more points. Chansu laughed loudly, determined. I won't go back until I've hunted 100 today. The notification already showed 4 undead demons hunted. The little rodent on his shoulder puffed out its chest, hands on hips, looked up at the sky and chittered triumphantly. It even waved its forepaw back and forth as if reenacting a heroic battle. Chansu laughed out loud, unable to hold it in, and teased. Anyone watching would think you're the one doing all the work. Hearing that, the little rodent immediately spun around and gave him a few sharp, chittering slaps on the cheek, looking thoroughly indignant. The two of the man and rodent bickered back and forth, then broke into peals of laughter. Chansu rubbed the rodent's ear while glancing at the notification, muttering, "But why call it the Undying Demon Hunt? They're not immortal, one chop and they're dead." Humph, well, if we keep hunting, we'll figure it out sooner or later. Saying that, Chansu stepped closer to the ginseng, his eyes lighting up like a child's. At the sight before him, the ginseng now looked as if it had just been dug from the earth and washed clean, its skin smooth and glossy. On a fresh leaf, a tiny blossom sat waving a welcome. Chansu pictured the prosperity goddess fully restored to her radiant form and couldn't help but smile with guilty delight. The ginseng twitched and trembled as if trying to move. Seeing Chansu, it hurriedly bowed and asked earnestly, "What should we do next?" Man and ginseng stood facing each other beneath the drooping canopy of a great, withered tree. After a moment of silence, the ginseng raised its tiny arm and pointed straight up, as if to say, "We must climb the tree." Chansu gently placed the ginseng in his palm and stepped to the tree trunk. The ginseng extended its root to touch the gnarled bark, then turned to stare at him. "Do I have to touch it too?" Chansu asked, a bit surprised. He took a deep breath and pressed his hand against the tree. The instant he did, a notification frame lit up before his eyes. Chansu strained to pour the last of his remaining energy into the tree. Though he didn't know how long the monsters on the hill would take to respawn, as long as they remained, he could keep killing them and accumulating energy. Long branches shot out, and fresh green leaves sprang up in a flurry. In the blink of an eye, the tree was flushed with life. On the high branches, clusters of pure white blossoms unfurled, releasing a faint fragrance before folding back almost instantly. Right there, small green fruits began to appear, swelling like water balloons. The green slowly shifted to deep crimson, plumping and glossy, so heavy the branches bent under the weight. Panting with exhaustion, Chansu looked up in astonishment. The tree was laden with gleaming red apples like gems in the afternoon sun. Hands trembling, he picked one. He couldn't believe it was a real apple. This was the first time he'd ever seen fruit up close, and he'd never realized how big and heavy they could be. Drool welled up. He wanted to eat it immediately but forced himself to wait. Devotee offers the first fruit to the goddess. Perhaps that was the proper ritual. The goddess reached out and embraced the apple. The moment the ginseng clutched the huge apple, he couldn't suppress a satisfied smile. But in an instant, the apple began shriveling at a terrifying speed. Soon the juice inside was gone, leaving only a dry husk. Chansu gaped in shock at the way the goddess absorbed the fruit. He climbed the tree again and picked a few more. Cradling the apples, he went to the little rodent and invited it to share. While eating, he thought, "She gave me a formidable skill called beheading. Better be careful." He pushed all his messy thoughts aside and focused on enjoying the apple in his hand. The more he bit, the more the sweetness spread. So delicious it was hard to stop. Watching the devotee eagerly gnawing the apple, the prosperity goddess thought to herself. But when calamity began to consume the other factions, prosperity was forced to flee from that overwhelming power. To survive, Prosperity abandoned commerce and turned to hunting monsters. Naturally, the Prosperity faction, unsuited for combat, couldn't win a single battle. At the end of the road, it transformed its basic harvesting skill into beheading, but the Prosperity faction had reached the brink of extinction. Beheading wasn't originally an offensive skill to kill those monsters. It was meant to collect the heads of dead beasts or monsters. Prosperity and combat simply didn't fit together, so that was all it could do. Of course, if someone had enough power, it wouldn't be impossible. Suddenly Chansu stood up with the sickle, cutting through the goddess's thoughts. Seeing him raise the sickle and glance toward her, the goddess couldn't help but startle, then heard him chuckle and say he wanted to pick more apples. The goddess broke into a sweat, forced a smile, and thought, "Why would a child like this come to me? Whatever the reason, from now on this child belongs to me." Seeing him just climb down, without waiting, the goddess strained and flipped 2 root branches quickly to wrap tightly around the devotee's legs. "I won't give him to anyone else." Chansu flinched when he saw the goddess in ginseng form suddenly use 2 roots to coil around his legs. A terrifying thought immediately rose in his mind. Could this deity be trying to drain all his life force? The sky gradually took on the golden hue of sunset. Chansu slung the apple basket over his back and slowly headed toward the ruined city. In his hands, the tiny ginseng had fallen into a deep sleep. He gently set it down on a flat stone, careful not to wake it. Then Chansu poked the chubby cheeks of the little rodent beside him and smiled softly. "You've worked hard." The little rodent immediately resisted the sacrilegious touch, chittering repeatedly as if scolding him. Suddenly a loud rumble came from his own stomach, startling both Chansu and the rodent. Meanwhile, the ginseng slept on without moving. Worried about waking it, Chansu quickly placed the rodent on his shoulder and hurried away. His face showed a sullen look from hunger, thinking to himself, "Apples alone still aren't enough." Just then, a message notification chimed again in the quiet air. "But to deliver a package, wouldn't they need to know exactly where we are?" From boredom, the little rodent let out a long yawn and flopped listlessly onto Chansu's shoulder. Before long it fell asleep. Chansu smiled helplessly, carefully lowered the little rodent and placed it beside the snoozing ginseng. Then he gathered some nearby leaves and gently covered them both like a blanket so they could rest peacefully in the cool evening breeze. In another place called the Reincarnation Sanctuary, a girl strode forward full of furious energy, her heels striking the stone floor hard, heading straight for the room where a man sat intently taking notes. Bang! The door was flung open so suddenly the man jumped, the pen slipping from his hand. He trembled, hurriedly wrapping his arms around himself as if to protect himself, stammering, Hey, what about the order? Why are you here? Senior, are you joking with me?" The girl ground her teeth and cut him off. The man went pale and waved his hands frantically, explaining, "I don't know what you're talking about, but please calm down first. This girl is Hei Sujin, an apostle of reincarnation." She angrily held the order slip aloft, her voice trembling but full of rage. "I'm already buried in my own work. Don't be unreasonable. I was sent beyond the territory for a 3-day, 2-night assignment. You know it's because of that damn free shipping event that I didn't earn a single coin, right? But I still risked my life to deliver. And for what? Just 1 apple? On top of that, they brazenly said they had no money and wanted to trade apples for goods." Bang! Sujin slammed both hands down on the table and glared, shouting, "What did I do wrong?" The man across from her immediately broke into a sweat, his back stiffening, eyes avoiding hers. He tried to turn his head aside, his voice trembling. No, not at all." Then the man crossed his arms and explained, "It's actually the opposite. It's just that our junior is overly passionate about the job. I love the work too, but if you keep working overtime like this every day, your body won't hold up. Even though it's called a business trip, you need to rest. If you stay here, you'll finish this task only to move straight on to the next. Go cool your head or something." Sujin stubbornly argued, "I know it's because no one else wanted to take this trip." The man scratched his head, embarrassed at being caught, then put his hands on her shoulders and turned Sujin toward the door, pushing her out. He added, "Maybe you'll get lucky and find a hidden domain out there? Be careful." Sujin finally let out a helpless sigh. "Fine. I'm going. Going now." While moving, her hand flicked across the display showing the task list. Why is the order list so long? Sujin knit her brows, the corner of her mouth twitching. If it means entering a forbidden zone, you need to prepare thoroughly beforehand. Her fingers curled into a fist. Sujin took a steady breath. Determination mixed with fatigue flashed in her eyes. Hopefully this trip won't be in vain. A clear blue day, white clouds drifting slowly. Chansu played hide and seek with the little rodent, surrounded by baskets piled high with red apples. The little rodent hid behind a large apple, nibbling and chittering with delight. Bet you can't catch me. Chansu stepped slowly closer, saw the apple gnawed all to bits, his eyes lighting up as he teased, "Hey, where are you? Could it be behind these apples?" The little rodent heard his voice right by its ear, panicked and covered its mouth with its front paws, frozen in place, but was eventually caught by Chansu. He laughed and scooped the little rodent up, pinching its chubby cheeks with both hands. Then his face turned serious. He warned, "I'll remind you again, these apples aren't for eating, they're for trade. What will I do if you act like this at today's meeting?" The ginseng perched on a nearby stone nodded its round head in agreement. Chansu couldn't help sighing. He didn't want the first meeting to leave a bad impression. Based on the information he received when signing up for deliveries, this world is literal to its name. Different territories are divided into blocks. Though they look like ordinary lands, a wall exists at the world's edges. And to move to another block you need a periodic travel pass. Around him there was truly nothing. Even the nearest village was a full week's travel away. He hardly ate anything except apples, and the delivery job only took about 2 days anyway. Chansu wearily poked the little rodent's cheeks to relieve stress, then collapsed onto the ground. He didn't know how they handled deliveries, but whatever the method, he just hoped the sleeping bag would arrive soon. A real bed would be even better. He pushed himself up and caught the ginseng grinning and waving a rude hello. Chansu laughed and said, "Oh, I even ordered a pillow for the goddess." He smiled outwardly, but inside he calculated. To avoid becoming a dried-up mummy, I need to win as much favor as possible. At that moment, the atmosphere suddenly shifted. He tightened his grip on the sickle. In front of him stretched a long line of immortal demons tailing one another, advancing step by step as if offering their lives. Chansu's eyes went icy and unmoving. True to their name, these immortal demons never seemed to stop dying. Chansu dashed forward, ignoring whatever blocked his path, killing first and worrying later. The sickle in his hand flashed with a cold gleam. The little rodent on his shoulder bristled, trembling and clutching his collar. Chansu exhaled sharply and glanced back as an immortal demon lunged in to ambush. At the moment that fierce strike was about to land, Chansu leaned aside and dodged cleanly. Of course their movements had sped up. He gritted his teeth, his gaze growing even colder. Do monsters level up like skills? No matter how they change, Chansu showed no hesitation. He charged in, swinging the sickle in slashing arcs like a tearing blade, silver light ripping the air. In an instant, the whole pack of immortal demons exploded into dust, shards scattering in every direction. He stood there breathing evenly, his eyes cold and steady, completely unaware that another pair of eyes had been watching him all along. High above in the sky, Sujin, an apostle of reincarnation, stood with her arms crossed. Winged shoes shimmered softly, keeping her suspended in midair. She looked down at the scene below, eyes wide in stunned disbelief. "This is insane," she murmured, her pulse fluttering. "What on earth is that?" Hey Sujin had never in her life seen such extreme swordsmanship. Sujin swallowed dryly. Could he be a master swordsman? But a master swordsman doing something as mundane as apple picking? Better not rile him. Who knows what would happen if you made him angry? After fighting for a while, a notification frame popped up before Chansu's eyes. He couldn't help feeling pleased as his points and the rate increased from 5% to 10%. He clenched his fist. Felt great. The blessing fee is 1,000 points per apple. So today I can handle up to 100 apples without trouble. He glanced toward the temple and thought. At first I wondered why there'd be a temple in a place like this. Could it be because it's a special block? Someone appeared behind him, cutting off his thoughts. He saw a girl bowing politely and say, "Sorry, customer." Then she straightened and beamed. "Nice to meet you. I'm Hei Sujin from the shipping trade company. Your order has arrived. Chansu beamed broadly, eagerly shook her hand, and asked in surprise, "Oh, how did you find me so quickly?" "Aha, because I'm kind of hard to miss. You seemed extremely friendly." But Sujin clearly remembered him casually chopping off the immortal demons' heads, and she absolutely couldn't let her guard down. Suddenly Sujin, who had been smiling, stopped mid-expression when she noticed a tiny fluff on Shansu's shoulder. A parade of urges flashed across her face. "I want to touch it. I want to touch it. I want to squeeze it. I want to touch it." Seeing her flushed, longing face, the little rodent fearfully hid behind his back. Even while following the man, that refrain "wanna squeeze it" kept echoing in her head. The two of them reached the baskets of apples, but Sujin's mind remained fixed on the little rodent. On the breeze, the sweet fragrance of apples wafted gently and flooded her nostrils. Apples really do smell wonderful, don't they? Yes, they've grown very well and are delicious. A few more steps. Sujin stopped beneath an apple tree. The tree stretched high, its branches laden with large, round fruit, their colors so bright and vivid it was unreal. What is this? Each apple was the size of a cantaloupe, not 3 or 4 times, but 5 times the size of a normal apple. Seeing her silence, Chansu smiled and asked, "Would you like to try one?" "Oh, may I? I really get to taste one?" As he handed it over, Sujin immediately felt its heavy weight in her palm. Clearly ripe and full of juice, she took a bite. Crunch! A clear, crisp sound, and then apple juice burst forth, flooding her mouth. So sweet, astonishingly sweet, but what impressed her more was the perfect balance. As she crunched through bite after bite, Sujin kept doing the math in her head. How should this be priced? At minimum, it has to be 50,000. With a good strategy, maybe aim for 100,000 even. When the apple in her hand was already more than half gone, Sujin had finished her calculation in her head. Customer O Chansu. Yes, selling these for 2,000 gold is absurd. Chansu scratched his head and smiled naively. Too absurd? Maybe they should be sold cheaper in the shop. So what would be acceptable? Sujin held up 2 fingers. He stared at her fingers a bit bewildered. 20,000? In any case, that price is a bit low. Sujin gritted her teeth and resolved to say, "You should get at least 20,000 gold per apple to be fair value." Hearing that, Shansu's eyes widened in astonishment. Seeing his clueless look, a flicker of ambition crossed Hei's mind. But when she saw the laden apple tree, she held herself back. "Honestly, I think each of these apples is worth at least 30,000 gold. That expensive?" Hei. Sujin chose to lay her cards on the table. Compared to dangerous bargaining, a long-term deal based on solid trust is much better. And besides, you only live once. Chansu still couldn't believe it and, fearing he misheard, asked again, "Isn't it just an apple?" Sujin held up an apple and explained, "This is the first time I've eaten something this delicious. Over time I've tasted every kind of fruit in the world. I believe this apple is worth more than any other specialty product." Then Sujin pulled out a contract and continued, "So for now we'll price it at 20,000 gold per apple. And afterward I'd like to settle the remainder with an official contract. What do you think?" Chansu took the pen and silently read the contract carefully. Finishing his thought, he smiled. "All right, but let's do it this way." Sujin reread the contract and widened her eyes. "I think you've made a mistake. The percentage we receive has increased." Chansu grinned brightly, "Because I want to do business with a good person for a long time, and you were honest with me about the value of the apples earlier, weren't you?" Seeing him hold out his hand, Sujin was a bit surprised, then gave a helpless smile. "Thank you so much for signing the contract. Now I should give you the items you ordered." Sujin took each item Chansu had ordered out of his backpack. "These are the seeds, food, and cooking utensils you requested. And here's an egg of a companion beast, a gift from the shipping trade company to commemorate our deal. It might be useful for your farming." Chansu took the egg. The little rodent peered down to look. Sujin added, "The more points you infuse through a blessing, the stronger the companion beast hatched will be. But be careful, infuse too many and the egg might crack. By the way, can you tell me about your apple yield and future harvest times? I plan to plant other crops too, so I estimate about 50 apples a day." 50 a day? The two of them then coordinated supply cycles, quantities, and visit schedules. After adjusting the remaining details, Their first deal was concluded. The ginseng hugged the pillow and wouldn't let go. Chon-Su laughed at the sight, thinking he'd grown rich from selling just one batch of apples. All thanks to that goddess. Suddenly the ginseng root started moving. He didn't know where it wanted to go, and saw it enter a nest and take an egg in its arms. Seeing the ginseng's eyes sparkle as it looked at him, he forced a smile and thought, if I want to bless the companion egg, I'll need more points. He scrolled through the notification panel looking for ways to get more regular customers, and when he reached the monster voting section, he shuddered. After a while, Chon-Su gave a small smile. Now I have so much free time, and things are going better than expected. Returning to the city, Sujin immediately went to find her senior and supervisor. The man looked at the apple in his hand and said, originally all the apostle recruits were Korean, so it's not surprising that someone who grows this would also be a fighter, is it? Sujin bowed, trembling. With just a rusty sickle, he beheaded over 100 immortal demons. The man, chewing loudly, said, it seems he's aiming to become a master swordsman by training with a sickle. It would be better to hide him than to focus on defending him. I agree, and sell these apples at a department store. Definitely do that. Suddenly Sujin grabbed the man's hand that was eating. What are you doing? Let go. You ate all the apples by yourself. I'm the senior here, and I'm the one who delivered the apples. That piece is mine. The night sky, Chon-Su sat and infused chi into the egg. I wonder what will hatch. Will it be cute, or will it be hard-working? Both are wonderful, aren't they? Then the three of them, the person, the mouse, and the ginseng, laughed happily. A moment later, a cracking sound came from the egg, and all three watched eagerly. The shell broke open completely. It was an SSS rank companion. It chirped once. Chon-Su froze. He had spent 120,000 points only to hatch a chick. Or should I raise it big and eat it? Looks like fried chicken is on the menu soon. But it's the chicken I exchanged 120,000 points for. I can't get attached to it. I'll just give it a simple name for now. Hello, starting today your name is Ari. And I'm Chon-Su. Ari pecked at the remaining egg. Chon-Su pinned all his hopes on that egg. Crackle, the eggshell split. It was a piglet. Chon-Su was utterly helpless. He wondered why he kept getting food ingredients instead of familiars. Was this a scam? Though disappointed, he named the piglet Doji. Late at night, Ari and Doji quietly went to the goddess of prosperity. Both bowed. Chip chip. Chick number 10 salutes the goddess of prosperity. Oink oink. Pig number 12 salutes the goddess of prosperity. It's been a long time since we last met. Please forgive me for failing to protect you completely. Chip, please don't say that. Chip chip, we should be the ones apologizing for not serving you properly. Oink oink. We'll do our best to help you regain your original form. I appreciate your devotion, but be careful. He doesn't know you're my kin. If he finds you useless, he might sell you, or he might eat you. The goddess's words made the two little animals blanch, and she continued, therefore, until you acquire communication skills, you must try your best to perform well. Oink. Is the goddess serious? Selling us? That sounds like a joke. No way. Chip, first, let's just observe. The next morning, Chon-Su yawned and woke his body into motion. He smiled and started a new day with his immortal little demons, sending them well wishes with decisive gestures of movement. The piglet and chick, awakened by the noise, came out to see. The demonic slaying scene frightened the two little animals. Chip chip, what's that? Is Chip beheading a skill like that? Beheading skill? Chon-Su was all too familiar with it. His sickle strikes never missed. The two little animals stood frozen as they watched the immortal demons vanish. The two little animals stood frozen as they watched the immortal demons vanish. They broke into a cold sweat, terrified. Chip chip, no wonder the believers look at us hungrily. Oink, what do we do? Chip, sure Chip chip, maybe he really will eat us. A notification frame appeared. 202 immortal demons hunted. Chon-Su wiped his sweat after finishing them off. A rustling sound made him start. Oh, when did you two get here? Chip chip, oh my. The goddess's disciple has been working hard. Are you tired? Oink oink. Haha, disciple, good morning. Chip chip, this way, smile quickly. He didn't understand what they said, but found it adorable. Then a plate of apples, sliced into small pieces, was placed before the two animals. Hey, do you want to try some? Oink oink. Give me some, give me some. Chip chip, don't eat too much, don't be tempted. You really eat with an appetite, don't you? Eat plenty and grow fast. Oink. So good. Maybe apple-fed pigs are trendy now? Would the meat taste better if they're fed fruit? The chick was startled, rushed over and pulled the piglet away. Don't eat it, you stupid pig, you'll turn into apple-flavored grilled belly pork. Chansu held out a slice of apple and asked the chick, Ari, do you want some? Ari, the chick thought, what is this flavor? It must be over 500 points. Are you crazy? Is this a day's income for a normal disciple? The chick suppressed its craving and turned away. Chip, I won't be fooled. Seeing the chick refuse, Chansu scratched his head, thinking it didn't like it, and offered it some grain. Its eyes glittered as it looked at the grain, desperate to eat but afraid of becoming fried chicken. Yet reason couldn't overcome the heart. Everyone has to eat, chickens included. Together with Chansu, they tended the crops for 3 minutes, ordering Doji to dig the soil enthusiastically. Ari planted black beans, covered the soil, watered them, and used the blessing of prosperity skill. Pretty easy, right? Our goddess is amazing. The harvested black beans were plump, round, and perfect, and the air suddenly fell still, startling him. He quickly held a bean and shook it back and forth in front of the chick. The chick jumped up to grab it. Chansu dodged the first harvest had to be offered to the goddess. The ginseng owner couldn't help but grin at the basket of black beans, then lay down to absorb them. Chansu loosened his grip on the beans and said, you too eat some. We'll plant potatoes and sweet potatoes later. Seeing the piglet gobble food wasn't surprising, but seeing the chick eat so quickly was a bit odd. We're doomed. After the 2 animals were full, Chansu smiled and said, good that you enjoyed it. I need to quickly plant other crops for you to eat. Suddenly he remembered today was apple sale day and worried a bit about whether they'd sell well. At the shopping center, a man skimmed the information, then glanced down below. Below, a large crowd of customers had gathered, but no one dared to buy. The royal apple on display above had golden dust on it, and below, winter plumage feathers were being sold for 200,000 gold. Though arrogantly named royal and packaged luxuriously, the high price caused discomfort. The man was puzzled, wondering if there was any way to promote its deliciousness without offering samples. Suddenly a thank you customer cut through his thoughts. He didn't know what had happened to cause the commotion, so he hurried to ask an employee and learned the apples had sold out. The table was spotless, not a single apple remained. The buyer who took all the apples was a rather famous man named Rohan. Hearing that name, he couldn't believe it and shouted. Although it became a hot topic, Rohan, the symbol of resilience, had once eaten this very thing to become a swordmaster. Netizens buzzed. The food I used during training is finally on the market. That news left the man tearing at his hair, angrily shouting, how could you publish articles like this? He looked like he was going to lose his mind. He yelled, it's not that simple. A week had passed since Chansu set foot in the new world, and he had managed to build a fairly comfortable life. Today was another busy day. I fed them, so I should get ready now, right? Pots and pans were already laid out on the table, and a plate of potatoes sat nearby. The ingredients were all prepared. Chansu held a sweet potato in one hand and a potato in the other, unable to hide his excitement. Ha! These are tasty too. Not worse than apples. He quickly peeled the potatoes and sliced them into neat, even pieces, then set them over high heat and began to stir-fry. Doji the piglet waddled over, oinking while pointing in one direction. When Chansu bent down, he saw a wet patch of ground from its drool. This isn't for you guys you just finished eating. Hearing that, the piglet looked even more pitiful, its eyes shining up at him. Faced with that expression, Chansu couldn't refuse. He ended up giving it another piece. From afar, Sujin's figure was approaching. Customer O Chansu. Ah, you're here? At the sight of someone arriving, the 3 animals immediately cowered, trying to hide the ginseng root behind them. Sujin paid them no mind, rummaging in her bag as she said, I have good news, do you want to hear it? She pulled out a sales sheet and handed it over. Don't be surprised. Each apple sold for 200,000 gold, and they've been sold out for 2 days straight. Hearing that shocking news, Chansu scratched his head and blinked. 200,000 gold per apple? And sold out 2 days in a row? Sujin let out a breath. Unbelievable, right? But it's true. There aren't even enough apples to sell. Chansu recalled that on Earth apples sold for about 990 gold. Yet here the price was sky high, probably only the wealthy could afford them. He looked down at the figures and began to calculate. Anyway, his share was around 30%, meaning he'd make 60,000 gold per apple sold. If he sold 50 apples a day, he'd earn 3 million gold daily. So his annual income would be 1 billion gold? Imagining that huge number, Chon-Su couldn't help bursting into laughter. What could be better than becoming rich himself? The more he thought about it, the more joy spread through him. With that money, he'd have enough resources to start searching for his parents' whereabouts. I don't want you to be discouraged by that. With that, he went straight to the point. How long do you think the royal apple craze will last? I know it's very popular now, but we can't expect it to keep selling at 200,000 gold forever. Sujin replied seriously. I understand your concern, but we have 1 million potential customers, and even selling 100 a day would take 27 years to run out. During that time, a steady base of regulars would surely form. Wait, what? That many potential customers? Shansu's eyes widened. By Earth standards, that's massive. But Sujin calmly explained, the current market size is comparable to China's, so you don't need to worry. After explaining clearly, she suddenly grabbed Shansu's hand, her voice full of anticipation. So, Mr. Oh Chon-Su, do you intend to increase apple production? Chon-Su pulled his hand back and forced a smile. Aha! For now my other crops have grown too, would you like to try them? They're tasty, not worse than apples. At that, Sujin's eyes lit up like stars. She gripped his hand tightly, nearly breathless. You have other things as good as apples? Chon-Su brought out the pot he'd cooked earlier, the aroma rising rich and intoxicating. It slipped into Sujin's nose and she couldn't look away. On the table sat a steaming plate of boiled potatoes, white vapor curling up. She quickly speared a piece and popped it into her mouth. A sweet, nutty flavor melted on her tongue, making Sujin's eyes sparkle. So delicious, it's almost painful. The crust carried hints of nuts while the interior was soft and airy, truly wonderful. Seeing her positive reaction, Chon-Su brought out 2 more plates, one of golden, crispy fries and one of hot pastries. When she pulled the pastry apart, rich filling and a glossy golden sauce oozed out, blending perfectly with the fried potatoes. Sujin hurriedly tasted it, and after one bite she couldn't hold back tears of joy. This could go straight onto a fine dining menu. Potatoes here aren't just a side dish, they could easily be praised as a main course. Chon-Su scratched his head and smiled sheepishly. I'm glad you like it. Finally came Doji's favorite, roasted sweet potato. Seeing his favorite dish, the piglet dashed over immediately, running and snorting. Give me, give me. The chick standing beside it felt despair, as if its life were about to end. Watching that, Chon-Su could only laugh, sat down, and handed each little animal a piece. Over there, the little mouse nimbly climbed onto the table, its glossy black eyes fixed on the hot roasted sweet potato. Inevitable as it was, Sujin's animal-loving heart erupted. Her hands wouldn't listen and reached out. So cute, such smooth fur. Seeing that, Chon-Su turned and said bluntly, I was thinking of selling some of these farm products too, what do you think? Sujin jumped, cleared her throat to hide it, but her other hand had already achieved its goal, stroking the mouse's soft fur. First, I must say that it was delicious, but is it okay to both increase apple production and grow these at the same time? Chon-Su was a bit taken aback, then replied softly, it would be really difficult without more points, and I don't think I can spend all my points just on farming. Hearing that, Sujin looked at him seriously. Then I truly appreciate all you've prepared, but please allow me to ask you to focus on growing apples. As you know, most devotees are Korean, and the culture in this world is heavily influenced by that. While I'm genuinely surprised you can make such tasty dishes, other farm products will be hard to sell at high prices. Even if there's demand, profits won't compare to apples. Saying this, she bowed slightly, her voice earnest. Mr. Chon-Su, demand for apples will surely keep rising. I don't hesitate to beg you, please consider our situation. Moved by her plea, Chon-Su fell silent to think, then slowly asked, 100 apples a day, can you manage that? Sujin froze, her eyes wide, almost unable to believe her ears. Really? Really? She stammered, voice trembling. He nodded slightly, a smile on his lips, thinking, no need to make things harder for myself. This is worth trying. She had just eaten so well, The little mouse in her hand was squeezed a bit tighter. Then she beamed a radiant thank you. The next day, Chansu took a sickle and went to deal with the immortal demons. The piglet and the chick trailed behind as usual. Do they have to follow every day? What can we even do? Chip, stop talking nonsense. If we don't dare to attack, who will? Should we really ask that naive mouse to do it? The chick angrily flapped its wings in a panic. Chansu turned back, frowning. Why do you follow me every single day? Is this really a combat familiar? A service familiar that only knows how to eat is useless. Before he could think further, the scene before him made his face go pale. The piglet and the chick were being herded in circles by the immortal demons. I was too delusional. Chansu tapped his chin in exasperation. Luckily, the demons moved slowly, but then the piglet ran until it was soaking with sweat and panting, unable to run anymore. Its eyes looked up in terror, full of panic. You idiot, run! Chansu shouted in alarm, lunging forward, but the distance was too great. Get out of the way! What the? The chick, scared, clutched its head and chirped frantically. It glanced up with teary eyes when it heard a swish. The sight before them was an immortal demon being cleaved clean off. Chansu froze. Huh, I didn't even hit that close. Does my reach extend farther now? Or did the skill upgrade? If I pay attention to the angle and the position of the sickle and also the speed, then think and act immediately. Chansu swung the sickle down from a distance. The slash landed true and felled the demon. A notification frame popped up. New skill maximum decapitation activated. The head slash skills range has been expanded. Chansu narrowed his eyes, then broke into a satisfied grin as the demons swarmed toward him. Haha, that's fine. Wider slash range, more regular customers coming in. His laugh echoed across the area, making the two little animals tremble and cling to each other. They dashed off back to the goddess. Oink oink goddess, goddess, something big happened. What's going on that's making you so frantic? The goddess asked, astonished. The chick, sobbing, said, the disciple started chopping off 4 or 5 heads at once. While being stronger is a good thing, shouldn't we have prioritized the communication skill first? The goddess soothed them. Calm down. I've never bestowed such a skill before. The chick burst into terrified crying. I'm so scared of being eaten I can't even eat. Hearing that, the goddess looked as if struck by lightning. Maximum what? What is that? That's terrifying. I've never heard of a skill like that. The goddess stood stunned, whispering, eyes wide with confusion. Is he really human? Or a messenger from hell? Could it be that she suddenly remembered something? The goddess inhaled sharply and turned to the two little animals. Kids, I think I might know what's going on. So his slash range has expanded and his power has become more terrible than before. The chick went pale, clutching the piglet's ear and trembling. But only devotees who have served at least a year can normally obtain that skill. The goddess nodded slightly, her tone softening. That's right, which is why he's terrifying, but at the same time a precious child. His evolution speed is so fast it's like a monster, so it's natural you were alarmed. But thanks to him we're able to sit here and talk to each other. At that, Ginseng reached out and gently patted the chick's head. When the disciple returns, I'll grant him the communication skill. So don't worry too much. The chick trembled but was gradually reassured. In a small voice, I'm sorry I showed my ugly side. From afar, Chansu was on his way back, walking and cheerfully waving hello. Ginseng hurriedly waved back, his face showing an indescribable doting expression. A strange longing stirred in the goddess's heart. I really don't know what to say anymore. I also hope to soon speak with the devotee directly. First, I'll introduce these children as my subordinates. Restricting a devotee's path violates the world's rules. Let him choose. As Chansu approached, a notification popped up. The goddess of prosperity grants the devotee a new skill. Please choose one. Promise of prosperity. Communication. Chansu didn't know which skill to pick, while the goddess looked at him expectantly. Of course, if he's my disciple, he'll choose communication. First, I must tell him to avoid dangerous battles. And the first thing I'll say is thank you. Thank you for choosing me. Chansu pressed the selection notification. The screen displayed, skill selection complete. According to your choice, you have received the promise of prosperity skill. Ginseng was happily waiting for the first words. but his smile suddenly faded. Chansu looked at the two skills and fell into thought. Promise of prosperity? He didn't know what that was. Images flashed through his mind. How could you do that? I trusted you, I thought we were family. I'll take revenge. I'll peck until your beak breaks. Chan, have you ever borne fruit over 100 times a day? My shoulders really hurt. He felt afraid to hear those words. So he applied the rule. Ignorance is better, and absolutely did not choose communication. A notification box appeared. Skill selection complete. Suddenly the atmosphere deflated. The goddess and the two animals looked droopy and sad. Chansu wondered why they were suddenly so downcast. Anyway, focus on the skill first. No further explanation. A promise to the goddess of prosperity. To make amends, Chansu chose the biggest, most perfect apple. After selecting a satisfactory apple, he brought it to Ginseng, but was met with a sullen expression. Not understanding why they were sad, another notification appeared. Usage points will accumulate depending on skill use. I didn't eat it, I gave it to them. So is that a success? If I keep my promise, I'll receive more points. It seems a task has been assigned to me. No sooner said than done. This time I'll pinch a cheek. He pinched the little mouse's cheek and actually got points. He teasingly asked the mouse, "Should I do it one more time?" In response, the mouse struggled. He turned his attention to the piglet and the chick, scaring them speechless. Then he noticed the piglet's eyes glittering with obvious craving and appetite. Realizing the reason, Chansu gave up. Sujin hurriedly ran over. "Customer. Oh, Chansu, you're back after just one day. What's the matter?" Sujin panted as she spoke. "Now is not the time. You must quickly secure this block and defend it." Chansu startled. "Wait, has someone arrived here?" Sujin hurriedly said, "Maybe. The popularity of the Imperial Apple has reached the point where we had to limit purchases. Yet even so 5,000 people have pre-ordered." Hearing the number 5,000, Chansu nearly fell over in panic. Sujin continued, "They said any time is fine, just send apples as soon as they're available. That means raiders are targeting the apples, and this block will attract them. There's no way to stop crime here. If we had protection, things would be different." At the mention of protection, Chansu couldn't help glancing back at the goddess hiding nearby. "If I lose, it won't only be the goddess but prosperity itself that will end." Sujin proposed a solution. "At minimum, we must secure this block and install an entrance." Chansu shared his idea as well. "Take the surrounding blocks and create a disguised base. That will also bring us closer to Sujin's location." Sujin agreed, and now Chansu voiced his question. "By the way, why are so many people pre-ordering? This isn't a normal situation. Don't you see? Everyone's obsessed with the Imperial Apple's effects. There are rumors that eating the Imperial Apple boosts skill XP, heals illnesses, prevents disease, clears skin, reduces fatigue, whitens teeth, helps with weight loss, and improves memory." Hearing that, Chansu gaped. "Are you kidding? Why didn't you just say it's an elixir?" Sujin teased. "Is it really like that? I hope so, but what a shame." Chansu ground his teeth, baffled by how things had turned out. But for now he had to secure the block. Suddenly Sujin put on an expectant look. "But isn't that true? Really? How could that be? It's just an apple." At a hospital, a man was secretly watching another man. The watcher was a paparazzo looking for a scoop. Sunlight streamed through the window into the room. A man lay on the bed working. This was Hong Eun-soo, impersonating Mr. Kim, the great alchemist Kim. Rohan set a gift box on the table and said, "A get-well present." Seeing it, Eun-soo asked, "Do you know if I'll be spiced up today?" They opened the box to find Imperial apples inside. Eun-soo asked, "Are these the apples? The ones you discovered the mystery of and bought them all?" Rohan snapped, "What nonsense are you talking about?" Eun-soo laughed as he peeled an apple. "I knew it." Then he took a bite of the apple. His taste buds exploded. His eyes lit up and he couldn't help exclaiming, "Oh my, it feels like flavor and nutrition have been maxed out. Are the other apples this good? How different is the flavor?" Rohan answered leisurely as he ate, "Who knows? I'm not exactly a food god." Eun-soo examined the bite and speculated, "Even with your senses it's hard to tell how it was grown, right? Even special fertilizers rarely improve flavor and aroma across all the fruit." Rohan paid it no mind and kept eating. When Unsu saw the plate empty, he growled in annoyance. You brought apples as a get-well gift and ate them all. He then took out his phone to place an order, but to his disappointment they were sold out and had many pre-orders. Hanging up, Unsu lowered his voice. You still have more, right? Sell them to me. I'll pay double. No, triple. Rohan crossed his arms and refused with a smile. The paparazzo snapped away, capturing every moment between the two. And the next day a hot news article appeared. Great alchemist Hong Un-soo discharged from hospital immediately after eating the imperial apple. Maybe the imperial apple really is an elixir if it can heal alchemical aftereffects. Rwan, Sujin's superior, slammed his hand on the table in anger when he saw the news. I've been busy dealing with these ridiculous rumors. Are they joking? Really, are they pouring fuel on the fire? I already said it's not an elixir. Chansu turned and reported to the goddess. It seems we need to secure the surrounding blocks. Hearing that, the goddess startled and dropped the bite she was holding. I'll go tonight. She stared at him in shock. Doji and Ari, you two must protect the goddess well. Just got your skill and you want to leave right away? That skill isn't meant for fighting. Immediately the goddess sprinted over on her tiny little legs. Chansu bent down and saw her repeatedly hitting his leg. Don't go. It's too dangerous. He blinked dumbfounded at the goddess. After a moment his face lit up with joyful excitement. Found it the beef I pre-ordered. Before Chansu was a tray of delicious-looking beef. He was moved and remembered. This was real meat he'd only heard about. On Earth there was only lab-grown meat, so he'd only seen it in pictures. Just looking at the pictures made his mouth water. So Chansu quickly fired up the stove and grilled a piece of beef. The aroma spreading through the air made him marvel. Just the smell alone was completely different from lab-grown meat. Doji behind him puffed with excitement. Amazing. Chansu quickly warned him. No, that's the goddesses. Ari beside him, acting composed, poked and teased. You pig, just finished eating and want more? That's not right, my lady. At that moment, when they looked back, they saw the goddess's face was terrifying. Apparently the food wasn't enough. Ari hurriedly cried out in worry. It seems the goddess is hungry. Check it out. Chansu turned and reassured. Almost ready. Please wait a moment, my lady. He then presented a fragrant, fatty slice of beef to her. Please eat first. It's hot. Be careful. But she immediately threw the piece down in anger. Not that one. I told you not to go. Our clueless Chansu still didn't understand and fretted. Is the meat spoiled? Surely she's not actually angry, it was only just bought. So he reached out and took another piece to try. Let's taste this one. Chansu put the savory beef in his mouth and chewed so good. Really tasty. But something was off. Thinking that, his expression fell with regret. Too bad. It didn't leave as strong an impression as the apple did. Chansu, startled, looked at the goddess and realized. So that's why she wouldn't eat. He guessed the flavor wasn't right, while the goddess across from him, eyes brimming with tears, silently pleaded. Don't go, don't go. I told you not to go. Don't go, you're my disciple. Don't go. I said don't go, listen to me. Suddenly Chansu stepped closer to her and smiled. He assured her. I'll find a better cut of meat for the goddess, please be patient. Ari and the pig blinked in surprise. Time advanced to 11:59 p.m. By then Ari and the pig had eaten their fill and were sleeping soundly. Give me more, no, if we eat more, we won't be able to turn back. The turnip goddess still sat sadly in a corner, tears welling as if she were about to cry, staring out. At that moment Chansu was in the forest observing the surroundings. The nighttime lights shone romantically. He whispered, this is the boundary of the block. Before Chansu stood a transparent door glowing blue. He touched it in wonder. From a distance the scenery continued on, so the space vibrates like this. Suddenly the system announced, do you want to move to block 35N10E? Chansu answered, yes, let's go. Then system windows appeared, loading. Tip, travel tickets will replenish at midnight. He turned his head and shouted, it's completely different from where I was. Then Chansu suddenly looked up, startled. Ha! A swarm of creatures was flying across the sky, gathered like dark shadows. Looking closely, it was a cluster of large, terrifying men hurtling toward him. He cried out, oh my God! Immediately Chansu spun and ran for his life in the opposite direction. He gripped his sickle warily. What kind of insect was that? Chansu ran. and kept turning back to strike at the nearby creatures. They were too small. He kept swinging his sickle at them, but it was hard to land a hit. Chansu glanced back and made a decision. Damn it, I have to go back. He touched the transparent wall behind him. Instantly, black shadows with sharp hands crawled out. Seeing that, Chansu was amazed. Immortal goblins? Why are they here? Could it be you came to protect me? They muttered, blushing. They should be the ones to defeat you, so this time we'll fight alongside you. Immediately, the immortal goblins attacked the flying creatures. Chansu ran and shouted, "Oh God!" When he looked back in astonishment, the immortal goblins were making the insects disappear. Chansu stopped. This was his chance. He hacked at the immortal goblins to clear a path back. He had to retreat first. Chansu reached for the boundary gate. The immortal goblins also reached out, trying to hold him back. Chansu summoned all his strength, shut his eyes tight, and lunged through. After a while, Chansu sat on the ground panting. He'd nearly been killed. A system window popped up. Tip: defeat mature monsters to earn bonus points. Chansu remembered in surprise. Bonus points? Points from monsters the immortal goblins killed stack up? This is totally... He smiled faintly. It's a goldmine of points. Now things are different. He stood before them with his sickle and said, "Really, you regulars are impossible to dislike." Unable to resist the rewards. Cut to another scene. A pile of documents on the desk. A sigh rang out. "Senior, I'm going crazy from all the complaint calls." Hei Sujin lay face down on the desk, lamenting the baseless rumors about the Imperial Apple have gone too far. The senior bowed his head and replied shakily, "Until now I let it slide because it helped marketing. But you're right, we can't be swept up by baseless rumors anymore." His face lifted, showing exhaustion. "From now on, ban all comments about the Imperial Apple. Don't answer any inquiry calls or interviews, respond to questions with silence and ignore them." She stared, asking blankly if that would work. Wouldn't it turn into chaos? He affirmed, "Of course. Even with a knife at our throat, don't disclose anything." His grand proclamation echoed. These people need to be taught a lesson, unaware that a figure stood behind them. Hei Sujin saw the person and stammered, "Senior." She asked about his earlier remark. "If a knife were really at your throat, what would you do?" Hearing that, he was stunned. "What, are you joking now?" He answered that those were meaningless words, but then noticed something strange beside him. Hei Sujin hesitantly warned, "Someone behind you." Tears streamed down her face as he asked if she was threatening him. A cold voice from behind said, "Sorry to startle you. This is just a polite greeting." Before them stood a handsome man, the blade god Rohan. Thinking to himself, a greeting, not a threat. How did he get in here? He turned and asked, "Have you come here on business?" The blade god Rohan planted his hand on the table. "I tracked down the former director earlier, but he was tight-lipped. I hope you won't be the same, and I have a question." He directly demanded, "Where is the grower of the Imperial Apple right now?" When Rohan pressed him, the brown-haired guy trembled. "That matter." He spoke boldly, but after saying it his limbs went weak. Rohan coldly drew his sword. "I see. Is that so? I wanted to settle this easily, but it seems that's not possible." They clung to each other and wailed, "We're dead. Please don't kill us." But instead of attacking them, Rohan suddenly drove the tip of his sword hard into the floor. Immediately, the blade pointed east. Having found a direction, he turned and left. "I'll track it down with my instincts," which left them bewildered. "What?" Unable to contain her curiosity, Sujin whispered, "Instincts? What do you mean?" The brown-haired man explained to her, "The life of a sword saint is completely different from ours. I've heard Rohan solved many problems that way." Sujin found it hard to believe. Could someone really have that ability? One night, under a bright moon, the two, Chansu kept watching the doorway, waiting for him. He hadn't arrived. Waiting made him queasy. It sounded urgent and he was very worried, because she had reported that Chansu, the sword saint, would visit this block soon. Chansu muttered in boredom, thinking even the sword saint would have restricted movement. Even a single package gets delivered within 2 days. As his patience wore thin, the system notified him that someone had entered the block. He couldn't contain his joy and sprang up. When Chow Chow is summoned, Chow Chow arrives. Finally he had come. The alert had sounded, yet the door remained silently shut. Chansu suspected an error. Wasn't every visitor supposed to come through that door? After a moment of checking, he concluded it didn't seem to be a system fault. Circling around, he discovered something strange. Namely, the block was split open by a very long crack in midair. Seeing that sight, Chansu froze. Had he really torn the block's border? Could someone do that? Through the rift, a person strode in with steady steps. The sunlight only intensified the color of Rohan's hair. Looking at the powerful presence before him, he wondered, was that the sword Saint Rohan? While Chansu still lingered in awe, the man spoke. Are you the one who grows the imperial apples? At first he smiled and greeted him. You're Rohan, right? I'm Chansu. What brings you here? You found the right place. Rohan answered bluntly, I'm here to buy apples. Inside, Chansu evaluated him silently blunt. Too direct, but seeing money approaching him so warmly, he asked how many he needed. He estimated 100 or 200, if possible. Hearing the request, he exclaimed in shock. What? That's impossible. At most 50, that's the limit. The maximum amount saddened Rohan. I see. Chansu thought to himself. He looked downcast, maybe it was just his imagination. Right? He began negotiating the sale. What about the price? Rohan answered at once. I know it's 200,000 gold per apple. The price was agreed on, but Chansu hesitated. We don't offer packing services here. Rohan agreed, no problem. He seemed a bit flustered. That's the department store price. He still accepted, I know. Seeing him so agreeable, Chansu quietly considered whether he should sell 100 apples. Inside the block, the air was utterly still. Meanwhile, he led Rohan through the apple grove. But he could never have guessed that beneath the cold exterior, the man was practically drooling. Those apples did look delicious. At that moment, Chansu called out, as I said, 50 apples will do. Just as he prepared to harvest, the system chimed. The blessing of prosperity skill had been activated. Immediately, a plump apple appeared dangling from the tree. Then a flurry of imperial apples ripened and hung heavy on the branches. Seeing the ripe apples, he instructed, I need to harvest now. Please wait a moment. As Chansu prepared to climb and pick, Rohan called out, please step back, which unnerved him. Before he could recover, he saw the man flash forward like lightning. Blades shimmered in a rapid, dazzling sweep. In an instant, the ripe red apples were off the tree. When he finished, Rohan sheathed his sword. Watching the apples slide straight into his bag, Chansu nearly dropped his jaw. At this point, it was basically hacking. Not long after the system announced 10 million gold had been received. Payment complete, Rohan promised, I'll come back next time. Seeing him about to leave, Chansu hurriedly said, wait. Inwardly, he quietly sketched out a plan. The bugs in the previous block should be fine, so I ordered an insect whacking staff, but I still don't know what the next block is like. Having Rohan come along would definitely help a lot. He also has a free pass. For that reason, Chansu offered, are you interested in other produce? I grow them myself. You'll surely like them. He replied indifferently, produce? He began listing a bunch, very good potatoes, and Rohan bluntly, don't like them. Sweet potatoes, he was also cool and said, don't like them. I also grow beans. Rohan flatly refused. I really don't like them. So, I'll be on my way. Chansu's inner voice screamed. If he leaves now, it's over. So he urgently shouted, apples. Fearing the chance would slip away, he immediately offered, I'll throw in extra apples. Chansu decided to sell more because he thought that, though odd, the man didn't seem evil, and he honestly admitted, actually, to supply the local area steadily, I need to secure another block. He also stated his request plainly. So I'd like to ask for your help. I'll pay you in apples, Mr. Rohan. Seeing his gloomy expression, Chansu worried inwardly. Is this asking too much? After a moment's thought, Rohan spoke up, supply steadily, huh. He suddenly whipped around, making him jump. Rohan held up 2 fingers. Chansu hesitated, so, you mean 20 apples? He nodded in response once he understood what was meant. With the deal made, Rohan headed off to a spot. Chansu ran after him. Out of breath, he really moves fast. Meanwhile, he thought to himself, I didn't expect him to arrive so quickly. How strong is he? Is he unbeatable? At that place, the mud underfoot was fresh and fluffy. Chansu's mind fretted. It's so fertile here. Why is it only my block that's barren? The ground where they arrived was full of gooey mud, making movement quite difficult. Annoyed by the muck, he complained that he should have brought boots. He also checked on him. Are you okay? Rohan? Just then Chansu noticed something unusual monsters. As quick as lightning Rohan grabbed him and ran out of there. Having temporarily avoided danger he instructed, "Stay behind me." Dangerous little did he know Chansu was thinking that he was the dangerous one. At the same time he wondered, but are those monsters? Chansu doubted because they looked more like plants, but they still seemed pretty fierce. So he decided it's okay, Rohan, after all this will be the block I manage. Then the system announced a tip. You can activate the submerge skill. The skill made Chansu suddenly confident. Leave it to me. Streaks of light shot through the air. The system reported that the Blessing of Prosperity skill had been activated. At another moment, golden sunlight flooded and brightened the whole forest. Somewhere a voice lamented, "My winged sandals." The complainer was Su-Jin, who always got soaked whenever she came here. "It's really annoying, I can't open the teleport gate myself." With the help of her winged shoes she zipped through the air, staying clear of the puddles. While moving, Su-Jin heard someone call, "Ms. Hey Su-Jin." She cheerfully replied, "Oh Chansu." But Su-Jin froze. It was because she saw Rohan, face cold, turning soil alongside him. Seeing that, Su-Jin couldn't believe her eyes. What's going on? What is this scene? Chansu said happily, "Didn't you tell me to take over the neighboring block? I thought I'd claim a block and say hello to you at the same time." Hearing that, Su-Jin reacted sharply, "No, that's not it." She leaned close to Chansu's ear and whispered, "No, why are you going with that guy?" He glanced and mumbled, "Well, actually," suddenly something struck hard, splitting that big tree trunk in two. Chansu forced a smile and stepped forward. "Finally done, you've been waiting long, right?" But Rohan remained silent and gave no answer. After a moment he said, "Apples." Rohan said seriously, "I'm curious about the taste of the apples grown here." Chansu smiled and replied, "But there's no soil here to grow trees. Everywhere is water." Suddenly Rohan crouched and swung his sword hard. Immediately the layers of earth beneath their feet pushed aside to both sides. Chansu jumped, clutching his chest in shock. So that's what a hacked feeling is like. He sat beside a sprout, trembling slightly, and said, "We'll probably meet often, so you can feel free to talk to me." A notification popped up. "The Blessing of Prosperity skill has been cast." Chansu scratched his head sheepishly. "That's the thing." But Su-Jin seemed irritated and muttered, "What is that supposed to mean? I don't get it." She walked up to the tall tree, looked up, and asked, "And this is an apple tree, right?" Suddenly Su-Jin pinched her nose in disgust. "It smells kind of odd." "No, very odd." Chansu smiled helplessly and replied, "It's a bit unusual, yeah." He looked at the ripe red apples and explained, "Maybe because of the environment these apples have double the flavor and aroma. Depending on where I apply growth points the taste changes, so I'm still experimenting." Chansu gently picked up one and offered, "Do you want to try one?" But Su-Jin scowled, pinched her nose, and stepped back. "No." Suddenly she glanced to the side and calmed down. She looked down at the ground and asked curiously, "So this is a carnivorous tree you captured, right?" Chansu was surprised to hear that. "Can it really be called that?" Su-Jin sat down, took a test tube from her bag and pondered, "This monster behaves like an ostrich. They move only at night and are notoriously hard to catch." She picked up a carnivorous plant and gently dripped a few drops into the test tube. "It's in good condition, but why is it so good?" After collecting those drops, Su-Jin held the tube up to inspect and asked, "Oh Chansu, did you hunt all these plants yourself?" "Yes, that's right." "And Lord Rohan didn't catch any?" Chansu, surprised, stepped forward and asked back, "No, is there a problem?" Suddenly a hand snapped down and grabbed his hand like lightning. Su-Jin suddenly shouted, "Of course you'll sell them, right? This isn't my specialty, but they're valuable." Chansu cried out in fear, "I'll sell them, I'll sell them." He helplessly looked at his poor hand and lamented, "Good thing it's not broken." Then Su-Jin gently turned and gave Chansu a look over her shoulder. He watched Rohan happily eating an apple and thought with a twinge of envy. Skilled in both combat and farming, even wielding a holy sword at his side from the start, he's completely extraordinary. But I'm truly glad I met him. Over here Su-Jin was lost in thought. 100 apples, carnivorous plant sap, and soon the new harvests. When someone loudly called her name, "Miss Su-Jin." Startled, Su-Jin snapped back, "Yes? What's up?" Chansu said gently, "The supplies I ordered, I need to plant insect-repelling plants and build a new house before I leave." She blushed, rummaged awkwardly through her bag. "Ah, Right, I'll give them to you now, just a moment. Not long after, Su-jin produced several packets of seeds. These are insect repellent plant seeds, and this is the construction kit. Chansu smiled and rolled up his sleeves. Please wait just a bit. Opposite him was a small wooden house, a mobile home for explorers, insect-repelling plants, bug-banishing chrysanthemums, mint, and catnip. Su-jin stared at Chansu suspiciously. Who is this person? Really? Inside, tiny animals frolicked happily. The shrine was still shabby, but today marked a historic day. A system prompt appeared. Would you like to purchase the ownership book for this block? Then information displayed. Block 36, 10E has been merged with the Prosperity block. Chansu leaped with joy, finally owned after spending 100 tokens. He smiled, sat down cooing at the little animals, and reflected. The purchase limit is 10 tokens per day, so it took 10 days, and at last I officially became the owner, paying with my own money. Blocks appeared clustered together. A regular block costs 100 tokens, guaranteeing transfer of full ownership. Chansu lifted a hand to his nose and sniffed. Back in the real world, I could only afford a single room. Yet here the feeling was deeply satisfying. He then studied the system panel and analyzed. Now that I've bought the block, new features are unlocked, the most important being the block attribute system. It offered a tip. Attributes depend on the nature of the block. Chansu carefully touched the system panel. According to the tip, this block is suited to a goddess. The system moved to the next page. Choose an attribute to grant this block growth or death. Chansu smiled. Indeed, our goddess, there's no room for slacking even a second. He touched the panel. Growth seemed better than death. It could help the goddess flourish further. A notification then appeared. The growth attribute has been assigned to block 36N, 10E. He surveyed the scene. The grass looked greener. Hamdoli, the goddess, Ari, and Doji were all thrilled. Nothing major changed. Chansu grinned from ear to ear. Maybe it's just level 1, and with an upgrade system, how cute. He looked back at the system panel and tapped. The system window listed effects: growth for plants, animals, skill growth, and suddenly Chansu tensed and shouted. Monster growth has appeared? At that moment, Chansu gripped his sickle and stepped forward. With such a potent attribute, there are both good and bad tidings. Goblins suddenly appeared. The bad news was that the immortal goblin had received the growth effect. His eyes hardened with resolve. The good news was, he immediately lunged forward and swung hard. For now, it was still controllable. Under the scorching sun, Chansu wiped sweat and thought. And growth also increases bonus points. Suddenly, someone with a sword appeared behind Chansu. Rohan, approaching from the front, made Chansu ask in surprise. When did you get here? He replied coldly, just now. Chansu put on an innocent face and asked, didn't we agree to drop the honorifics? Rohan looked away and replied, I'm still not used to it. Chansu bluntly asked, anyway, you're coming to find me means you've eaten all the apples, right? But Rohan immediately objected, not all of them. Chansu continued, it's been less than a week since you bought the second batch of apples. He worriedly brooded, wondering if he'd die from eating too many apples. Then Chansu turned and asked, so how many do you need this time? Rohan strode alongside him. As many as possible. The flavor has changed a bit because of the block's new attribute. Is that okay? The apples taste slightly different now. Chansu smiled and turned back. I'll let you taste them for free. Rohan quickly accepted, all right. On a peaceful afternoon, Hamdoli, the goddess, Ari, and Doji sat together enjoying a picnic here. The little animals frolicked carefree. They looked very happy, so peaceful. Suddenly footsteps approached. Would they still be smiling when the next event unfolded? It was Chansu and Rohan. The two of them quickly walked over. His face was full of surprise. Goddess, why are you all here? Ari stared and asked, and who is that guy? Rohan still idly looked around. I feel like something's off. Ari watched in horror. Wide-eyed, could he be a butcher? I saw him draw his sword and flinched. Rohan's face turned terrifying. You're lucky, those are some interesting pets you've got. Chansu, realizing danger was imminent, shouted, wait, Rohan. He didn't answer but raised his sword high. Rohan slammed his blade down, forcing Chansu to dive forward and gather up the little animals. He fell to the ground in utter surprise. A red apple rolled and tumbled on the ground. Other apples on the tree began to tremble as well. Chansu turned, looked, and smiled so he was harvesting the apples. Announce first and you'll be dead, huh? But Chansu kept shielding the little animals. It seemed Rohan hadn't noticed the goddess's presence since he called them pets. Rohan kept swinging his sword to harvest the apples and said, I'm not sure, but when I swing I just know. Apples flew around him. This block has the growth attribute, right? Then Rohan made an offer. Let me stay here. I'll pay while I train. Hearing that, Chansu jolted and turned to ask, Pay? He instinctively asked, How much do you mean? Rohan casually quoted a price. 9,929,421 per month. At that, Chansu, Hamdoli the goddess, Ari, and Doji gaped in shock. He sprang up and hastily shook Rohan's hand to show agreement. Money blinded Chansu's eyes. He cheerfully said, Welcome, VIP customer. He placed a hand under his chin and half smiled. Well then, alright. But Chansu looked Rohan straight in the eye and said, Actually, I have one request besides the money. He put a hand on his chest and said seriously, I want to ask you, Rohan, to provide protection. An image of a lush tree growing amid alternating squares suddenly appeared. This world's nature is about claiming blocks, and conflicts could erupt at any time. Chansu looked down at the small Rohan in front of him and thought, if the holy sword Rohan, one of the world's strongest, would protect me, what could be better? Level 100, holy sword level 100. The price is quite high, so it's a bit of a pity. He lowered his eyes slightly and told himself inwardly that he had to become a regressionist. Rohan then suddenly voiced a condition. If you can boost the skill growth effect, I'll consider it. Chansu raised both fists and cheerfully named specifics. Increase 50,000 points per day and supply 10 apples. At the mention of apples, his gaze sharpened. Apples can be bought separately, right? Hearing that, you hesitated and replied, yes, while thinking inwardly, how many does he eat in a day? Behind you, Ari fixed a resentful stare on you and wouldn't look away, while Doji watched with worry. Ari lifted his tiny wing and chirped a few times. Chip, what's he saying? Doji, eyes watering, also chirped back a few soft sounds. It, as if saying that person will live here from now on. Meanwhile, Chansu smiled broadly and thought to himself that the holy swordsman would protect them, and the goddess would surely be happy. But just as he turned, he caught sight of the little beasts bowing their heads sadly. Are they all so introverted? Chansu suddenly spoke up, startling the pets. Do you want to say hello? These are my pets. Human shadows drew closer, making them blanch in fear. Come on, you guys, say hello too. Beside that, Rohan stared at them and wore an icy, expressionless look. Moments later, the little animals were so frightened they bolted away in a herd. Chansu forced a smile and explained, they seem a bit shy. He fell silent and brooded. You suddenly spoke up, making Rohan glance up slightly. By the way, Rohan. Chansu smiled and said, I have my first request. A moment later, Chansu's sneakers stepped into a blue puddle. 35N, 9E. The carnivorous plant block. Inside that block, you carried a large basket of fruit to a certain tree, with Rohan following slowly behind. Chansu glanced at him, engrossed in eating apples, and helplessly thought, obsessed with apples again. Seconds later, you brightly opened the system panel. After all, if you buy the remaining ownership of this block, your long index finger immediately tapped the accept button on the blue screen, and it would become a prosperity territory. Block 35N, 9E became the property of the prosperity god. The system sound chimed, and Rohan suddenly drew his sword. Chansu abruptly turned to look at him in alarm. Rohan, he frowned and warned. There's something. You also followed Rohan's gaze in puzzlement. Is there something over there? In the focused stare of the two of them, a nearby flower bush began to make small noises that seemed to confirm their suspicion. Small white-flowered plants gently swayed. A plump black cat lay on its back, sunning itself in front of them. A cat? Hamdoli's image flashed into your head and you thought that, honestly, you've never seen any other creature here. It's probably some kind of piggy-like monster. The black cat was still comfortably hugging the flower, happily licking a few leaves. It didn't look very dangerous. Seeing Chansu step forward, Rohan hesitated a bit and called out, Wait. You smiled and gently scratched the cat's back. It was tamer and cuter than I thought. Just then, the black cat suddenly froze under Chansu's hand. its eyes rounding as it stared at you in bewilderment. Immediately after, it went berserk and leapt up, continuously showing hostility toward the two strangers. The black cat bared its tongue, making Chansu panic and dart behind Rohan in an instant. What's with it all of a sudden? Right then, the system panel suddenly popped up. What is this now? It glared at the two of them without looking away. An apostle of the denial god has declared war on Block 35N, 9E. Chansu read the announcement and gaped in shock. Oh no, we got declared on for touching it? He closed his eyes and cried out two streams of tears. Rohan, is this cat an apostle of the denial god? Do you really believe that? Rohan asked, puzzled. Why are you suddenly saying that? Chansu, a little embarrassed, explained, the apostle of the denial god declared war probably because I touched it without asking and it got angry. He looked down at the cat in confusion. Declared war all of a sudden? A life or death fight with this cat? Rohan turned away and denied it. It's not that. He glanced at you standing behind and continued, if they've declared war, they'll probably start appearing across the block border soon. Of course, there'll be people. Chansu cried out in surprise. People, really? You worriedly thought to yourself. Fighting monsters is one thing, but fighting people, the next three words from Rohan made Chansu freeze. Killings allowed too. You blurted in disbelief. What? Meanwhile, he calmly added, those of the denial god can be killed too. But it won't be easy. Hearing that, Rohan shot you a look. They'll resurrect at the shrine. Chansu was so stunned he fell silent for a few seconds. Resurrect? He steadied himself and replied, you asked again, like loading a save in a game? Yes. Hearing that confirmation made Chansu even angrier, redness rising in his eyes. Resurrect? That's ridiculous. Other people can die from a single mistake. The frustrated farmer thought inwardly, so they can slaughter people and just resurrect? Fine, bring it on. He gripped the sickle with a flame of determination. Rohan, can you help me fight? Seeing Chansu like that, Rohan fell silent for a moment, then replied, all right. Chansu immediately cleared his throat and said, then let's go. At the same time, at a blue teleport gate somewhere else, a few dry skeletons draped in tattered cloth suddenly appeared in the forested block. They led the way armed, and behind them 3 humans stepped out of the gate. The one with the tied-back hair held a megaphone and shouted, Apple Planter King, show yourself. Cut to a modern city with glossy glass facades gleaming in the sunlight. At headquarters, Sujin plopped down on the sofa and sighed. She was sure he had said that. Memories of conversing with Rohan suddenly flooded her mind. She wasn't entirely clear. Sujin, thinking of Chansu, asked, is he really that formidable? Meanwhile, Rohan seemed to have misunderstood her and, thinking of apples, replied, he's really special. Sujin worriedly bit her lip and thought, Client O Chansu is a powerful fighter recognized by the Holy Sword. How can someone be both a master swordsman and an excellent farmer? The image of Chansu holding a sickle popped into her head. He looks to be in his late 20s, yet masters so many different skills to the max. Sujin narrowed her eyes and pondered. Unless he's someone brought back younger by the 2nd or 3rd great summoning, it's hard to explain. The most recent was the 5th, so, indeed, her thoughts leapt to a new concept. A divine relic. A divine relic is an item created for those close to a god, or the remains of dead gods. One can borrow divine power from such objects. Sujin murmured with a casual smile. Suddenly he says he'll live with the holy sword really. Just then, a loud explosion suddenly rang out. She anxiously looked toward the newcomer as smoke billowed and dust filled the room. Su, looking disheveled, frowned and swept his bangs back. Then he suddenly glanced at Sujin with sharp, pale violet eyes. Sujin widened her eyes in fear, thinking, what is this? What's going on? He looked at me just now. Didn't he? Why is he coming this way? Su abruptly held out a test tube in front of her, making her jump. She peered at the luminous liquid near the bottom of the tube and thought, that's it, isn't this the carnivorous sap I brought back? Su glared and shouted, where did you get this from? Anyway, startled by the outburst, Sujin burst into tears, snot and tears streaming. She silently screamed inwardly, what now? Suddenly a blue teleportation circle appeared. A group of soldier-like skeletons emerged from the circle. They were followed by a bunch of mysterious, indistinct people stepping out. Chansu and Rohan were hiding behind a bush. Chansu asked suspiciously, "They're here to scout, right?" The swordman, crunching a huge apple, replied, "Who knows?" Chansu worried, imagining what would happen if the undead gained civilization. Those guys screamed that it was modern civilization. Catch this, then he tried to calm himself. This is ridiculous. While he was zoned out, a loud shout rang out. "Apple Planter King, show yourself." The man with the top knot who had come out of the gate moved deeper in with his companions, annoyedly lifting a foot to say, "Why is this a flooded area?" Then he used a megaphone to demand, "Come out and make this mutually beneficial." Chansu blinked in confusion. "What is this? Why aren't they guarding more tightly?" But he tried to convince himself that maybe they just act as they please since they're strong. Rohan agreed from behind, "Makes sense." He kept thinking, frustrated by how little information he had. But still, he had something. Chansu glanced at the figure behind him, who seemed to radiate light. Rohan at his side. Thinking that, he slowly relaxed. "Even if things go bad, it'll be okay, right? I'm putting all my trust in you." Outside, the top-knot man waiting suddenly looked forward. The top-knot man watched him approach and wondered in surprise. "What's with him? Is he alone?" His gaze then dropped to Chansu's hand. Seeing the gleaming sickle, he frowned and thought, "And that scythe?" But he put on an annoyed expression and ordered, "Are you the owner here? Don't waste time and bring out the Apple King." Hearing that, Chansu gripped the sickle's handle tighter. The undead advanced to protect their master while the top-knot man, flustered, stepped back and shouted louder, "Don't you see we outnumber you? What are you going to do with that rusty sickle?" He silently assessed the situation and counted how many there were. They didn't summon more undead, nor showed any signs of preparing a long-range attack. Now losing patience at the silence, the top-knot man angrily yelled, "We are apostles of the denial god, those who torture others to death." Chansu smiled amiably and explained, "I was worried because you're the biggest faction, but you're just a bunch of thugs riding on connections." The group was immediately stunned by the farmer's words. His thoughts were full of confidence. "The denial god is beyond me, but the holy sword is right here." The top-knot man's face turned even more purple. He ground his teeth and said, This is your last chance. Bring out the Apple King now or else." Calmly, Chansu retorted, "If you want apples, go to a grocery store. Why come to a place like this and pick a fight?" The other man, losing control, retorted, "Are you ready to face the consequences?" Chansu deadpanned at him, "You ask a lot of questions. If you're looking for someone who can answer all of them, go ask my mother." Then he suddenly pretended to be surprised and said, "Oh, sorry." His words hit the top-knot man like a slap. "She wouldn't be in this world, right?" While that man trembled with rage, the undead whispered among themselves, "He insulted his mother. That was too much. Just because we invaded, that's cruel." Chansu, confused, cried out, "Huh?" In a moment he realized the problem and frantically tried to explain, "Wait, no, that's not what I meant. I meant the world. There's no way she's tied to the same world. I mean it like that, and me too." The flushed top-knot man barked, "Kill him." The undead kept whispering, "This is clearly self-defense." Chansu, on the verge of despair, stammered, "No, I really didn't mean that." Cut to Eun-Soo and Soo-Jin. He stepped close to her seat, pleading like a merchant, "Please, tell me one thing." He seriously held up a glass vial of liquid and demanded, "This sap, did Rohan collect it?" Soo-Jin, startled, dodged and answered, "No, not him." Eun-Soo, still serious, pressed, "Then someone else?" She immediately stammered, Well." He calmed and continued, "Client information is supposed to be confidential. I'm sorry." He stood up, stepped back from Soo-Jin, and said apologetically, "I asked an unnecessary question." Eun-Soo then asked, "In that case, there won't be any extra fees, right?" She hummed uncertainly, Yes, probably." His face looked a mess, but he smiled widely and announced, "Good news, we don't have the capacity to keep taking supplies at labor rate prices." His purple eyes glinted with calculation as he thought, "I will absolutely not let this deal slip away." Then Eun-Soo, unable to let it go, told Soo-Jin, "As you know, carnivorous sap degrades quickly, so it's hard to maintain purity, not to mention how difficult it is to harvest." He held up a vial of glowing pink fluid and said, "However, the sap you brought back can maintain a higher purity than anything we've ever seen." Eun-Soo reached into his jacket, pulled out a stack of papers and said, "I don't know how you harvested it," but he set the papers on her desk and asked, can you keep supplying us? Sujin took the dossier, read it, and replied, I need to check. But, probably. He, eager, immediately proposed, then sign a provisional contract, at least. When she looked up at Eun-soo and said, and, he winked meaningfully and smiled. Tell him the alchemists will always welcome him. Back with Chon-soo, he was now under a coordinated attack by the undead. The top-knot man angrily ordered, execute those who dare mock the denial god and our pride. While defending himself, Chon-soo struggled to explain, I told you I didn't mean that. He realized internally that words wouldn't settle this. He'd probably have to clear them out first. Seeing his attitude, the top-knot man grew angrier and wondered why he remained so unfazed and confident. As they prepared to fight, the farmer suddenly asked, by the way, were all these undead mass-produced at the same factory? No sooner had he finished than he activated a skill. Skill activation mass decapitation, his blades slicing through the necks of the undead in a single sweep. After the move, he casually twirled the sickle on one finger with great finesse. Having finished the fight, he felt even more confident, perfect for skill practice. The top-knot man, stunned that he was so strong, immediately shouted, this is ridiculous. But when he looked up, skulls fell from the sky along with shards of frost, and his face went deathly pale as he froze in place. In an instant, the skeletons collapsed flat to the ground, leaving him dumbfounded. His expressive face drained of color as he exclaimed, what is this? Chon-soo set his foot on one of the skeletons and explained, they're much weaker than I thought, probably because they're just bones. The farmer, still wearing a friendly smile, asked again, so, are you surrendering? The top-knot man ground his teeth and cursed worthless trash. Then he produced a mysterious purple ring and said, I admit it, I didn't expect I'd have to summon this. But, the moment the stone on the ring shattered, he shouted, you should feel honored. In an instant, a large magic circle appeared on the ground with the chant, summon Hercules. Immediately a shadow rose from the enormous circle, so tall Chon-soo had to crane his neck to look up. The other man, seeing this, snickered with pride, kuhaha, how do you like Hercules now? A bizarre titan with a human head and a lion's head appeared, but far from the expected reaction. Chon-soo commented calmly, this is nothing like I imagined. This will surely be a defamation lawsuit. Across from him someone pointed and yelled, don't insult my masterpiece, this is the ultimate weapon. Forged for 30 million gold and 100,000 points. At the command, tear him apart, Hercules, the monster lunged straight at him. At that moment Chon-soo, distracted, thought, 30 million gold and 100,000 points? Yet he was able to think and dodge the monster's attack at the same time, equivalent to about 200 Apple Kings. The monster kept charging and attacking, making some kind of noise. In one move it bent down as if to crush Chon-soo's body. He smiled and said, how nice of you to bend down on your own. In an instant, a white beam of light sliced across the monster's neck. It was Chon-soo. He casually executed the malformed monster without exerting any effort. Watching the creature's body fall, the top-knot man trembled and cried out, impossible, my Hercules. As the monster dissolved, Chon-soo added fuel to the fire. 10 years of effort. The top-knot man suddenly turned and called out to the rear, hey, the purple-haired, edgy woman he snapped at yelled back, why are you just standing there watching? Is this bad already? This person is Kim Soo-ji, the fourth-generation apostle of the denial god. She scoffed and retorted, you were the one who confidently stepped out, now you complain? She glared irritatedly at the scene. What a nuisance anyway. This counts as overtime, right? My role is just the guide. Chon-soo, a bit doubtful, thought, has it really ended? Even I'd struggle with Phase 3. As he looked up, he froze at the figure standing before him. Chon-soo looked at the woman's cold face and said, I thought you were just a supporting character. Her blood-red gaze flared, and she stared wide-eyed as if to subdue Chon-soo. He immediately sensed that something was wrong. At that moment, a yellow warning popped up before the purple-haired woman's excited face. Tip opponent is using a skill, Life Denial, to curse the target. His face and eyes immediately grew weary, but he forced out, so you're an important character, so the system still remembers to warn. Danger. Suddenly, Rohan flickered in and out, rustling as he moved behind him. He brushed against the bushes, making noise. Hearing the disturbance, the big boss froze for a moment. Then, on guard, he spun around and scanned the area tense and shouted, who's there? While he fumbled and peered about, thinking someone was hiding here. Damn, where did he go? Rohan suddenly sprang into the air to dodge. Right then, he quickly realized the one lunging at him was Rohan. Seizing the moment before he could react, Rohan delivered a stunning blow to his head. At the same time, in the unfamiliar city center, dense rows of high-rise buildings lined the streets. People passing by, Chansu forced himself awake. He stared dazedly, grimaced, clutching his head and muttered, "My head." Sitting stunned for a while, he looked around at the scene, bewildered and confused. Wondering what had happened, he was clearly fighting the denial god's apostle. His hand subconsciously brushed the pavement as he whispered doubtfully, "This place." Then he turned and looked down at the central street below and suddenly shouted in alarm, "This is Earth, right? The place where I used to clear weeds." Chansu rallied, hurriedly stood up as two children playing darted past him. Making him even more unsettled, the landscape here was nothing like the Earth he knew. Even the kids were different. While he was lost in thought, a familiar voice called out, "Oh, Chansu." Chansu reflexively turned to look. He hazily saw two familiar figures smiling at him. The woman, with a tone part scolding, part worried, asked, "Where have you been? I've been so worried about you, dear." Seeing them, Chansu couldn't believe it. Tears welled in his eyes and his voice broke as he stammered, "Mom, Dad." He couldn't wait and quickly ran toward them. He hugged his parents tightly, sobbing like a child, trembling as he choked out, "Mom, Dad." Then he urgently asked them, "You're not leaving again, are you?" When the woman's arm that had been around him suddenly slipped away, the man turned his face away and avoided him. The woman gently pushed him back. Neither of them answered. Chansu froze, stunned, and called out in shock, "Mom?" Tear tracks still on his cheeks, his whole body shaking, he croaked, "Where are you going?" But they casually walked away, leaving him helpless as he screamed and begged, "No, don't go. Don't go, don't leave me alone." Chansu reached out to grab them, but their figures drifted farther away and faded. A hand shook Chansu awake. He snapped out of that heart-wrenching dream, tears still streaming down his face ashen, gasping, not yet over the dream's pain. Rohan placed a hand on his shoulder and gently reassured him. It was just her illusion. "Calm down," Rohan said as he gently patted Chansu to steady his emotions. Chansu stopped crying but was still shaken. Seeing him better, Rohan turned away. Suji collapsed to her knees, grimacing as she held her injured arm, wondering in surprise why the holy sword was in a place like this. Suddenly, Chansu stood up, gripping a sharp rake, and slowly walked toward her. His body still trembled, but his eyes were full of sorrow mixed with resentment. Even so, he still couldn't bring himself to strike Suji. Rohan hadn't intervened until now, only standing behind him, quietly gripping the sword at his side. Suddenly, he stamped his foot into the muddy ground to gain momentum. Then he lunged past Chansu, heading straight for Suji. Seeing this, she panicked and shouted, "Wait!" Chansu squeezed his eyes shut in fear, not daring to look. Rohan knocked Suji unconscious, and the mud slowly began to swallow and corrode her. She sank into the bog, only the top of her head faintly visible. Rohan sheathed his sword and asked dryly, "Did I go too far?" Chansu wiped the remaining tears from his lashes and replied sincerely, "No. Thank you, Rohan." After that, he surveyed the wreckage on the ground, calmed himself, and asked Rohan, "Shall we head back for now? We can deal with cleanup later." Rohan didn't answer directly but instead asked back, "What's the plan from here?" Chansu honestly told him his intentions. "We'll become the world's greatest power. First, we'll conquer all the neighboring territories." Then he cautiously asked, "Can I keep asking for your help?" Rohan agreed on one condition: an extra fee, payable in apples. Receiving Rohan's acceptance, Chansu relaxed and promised excitedly, "Thanks, I'll call on you when I need help, and I'll give you lots of apples." The two returned to the modest house with its smokestack. Suddenly Chansu noticed something and couldn't hide his surprise. Seeing the black cat, the apostle of injustice, still rolling and rubbing on the ground, lounging in the sunshine, Chansu hurriedly said, "I almost forgot." He bent slightly, smiling at the cat, then asked Rohan curiously, "So who exactly is that cat? So cute." Rohan answered seriously, "It's a territory hunter, one of the 7 great calamities." He watched the round, cute black cat stick out its little tongue and lick a leaf. Combined with Rohan's words, Chansu froze stiff, letting the rake drop from his hand, utterly speechless. His face drained of color as he cried out in disbelief. What? A calamity? Meanwhile, in a dark cell, the boss from earlier sat before the system screen and received the notification. You have lost the challenge match. Based on the outcome, the results of the duel will be determined. Because the power gap between you and the denial god is too great, an additional penalty will be applied. Please pay damages of 1 billion gold. Lines of text scrolled across the virtual screen. Seeing the grim message, the boss clenched the bars, shaking them in anger, grinding his teeth and shouting, lies. He screamed at the system it was due to the power gap. They even had a holy sword, but only received the single word denied on the cold screen. Then the system notified him again. The relevant parties are unable to pay. The compensation will be converted into a debt owed to the denial god. The boss, seeing this, shouted loudly, wait. He reached out trying to grab the screen but failed, left only to scream helplessly and negotiate in vain. No, I'll pay whatever it takes. Suddenly he froze. Terrified, he shrank back as two skinny bone-faced men appeared before his cell. They entered. One pulled out a chair while the other restrained him. No matter how he screamed, let go. Won't you let go? They showed no mercy. Then a pair of long legs and high heels stepped forward, and a woman spoke acidly. If you're ashamed, make sure it's convincing. What nonsense are you muttering? The boss, forced to his knees on the floor, looked up at the person who had entered. He stammered, why are you here? Choi Dan-ha, the fourth apostle of the denial god, arrogantly sat down, glanced down at him and threatened, you better explain exactly what happened, unless you want to go through something worse than death. She added, smiling devilishly as she stared straight at the boss. He glanced at her expression and answered cautiously, the king apple. I found the king apple orchard. But Choi Dan-ha wasn't about to take his word. She skeptically asked, that's not just a lie to save yourself, is it? The boss hurriedly shouted in protest, it's true. Rohan, the king apple fanatic, was there too. But Choi Dan-ha stubbornly refused to believe him and argued that if a sword saint had also fought, the compensation wouldn't be this high, right? Flustered and at a loss how to explain, he babbled, I'm telling the truth, the one who defeated the undead is a disciple of course, and so Kim Soo-ji lost too. Hearing that, Choi Dan-ha stood and taunted, Kim Soo-ji, she was there too? Choi Dan-ha slowly approached him and mocked at length, insinuating that Soo-ji surely joined as a mercenary, like a guide, and regretted that he wasn't held responsible for this incident. She paused, then smirked, her eyes maliciously fixed on the leader, saying with pleasure, at least you've tasted the pain of death that satisfies me. Then she reached up, lifted his face with her hand, and casually added, I just had a good idea. If they're farming, those two must be desperately short on labor, right? As she said this, she squeezed his face. The system chimed, the denial god requests negotiation, but Choi Dan-ha, in a sinister voice, gave the boss a new order. Round them all up and make them pay restitution with their own labor. As soon as she finished, the machinery announced again that until negotiations end, the losing side will become prisoners. Choi Dan-ha released his face. He yelled, protesting, what do you mean? There's no way outsiders could be in the king apple orchard. Choi Dan-ha didn't want to hear his nonsense and slyly tempted him. But the fact is they are, aren't you curious? Hearing her, the boss sensed something was wrong. His face paled as he stared at her. She wasn't trying to persuade him so much as command him. Her pleasant voice casually uttered a terrifying threat about what it feels like when humans are turned into undead. If you don't want to experience that yourself, she added, trailing off and idly twirling a lock of the leader's hair at her temple. A few seconds later she coldly ordered, then by all means crawl in there, a command he could not refuse but had to carry out. No one could resist a kitten. Chansu asked excitedly, then what exactly is that cat? So cute. Rohan's voice rose mildly. It's one of the 7 calamities. Unexpectedly, the tiny creature playing with the leaves was a territorial predator. The sickle in his hand slipped from his fingers as he recoiled in shock. Chansu's face registered genuine astonishment and disbelief. What? A calamity? He quickly turned pale and hid, watching the black cat lick its paw. Are we going to be okay? Rohan calmly stood there to reassure him. We'll be fine. If it had hostile intent, something would have happened already. He couldn't help worrying about the opposite. What if it had bad intentions? Rohan quietly explained, if so, it would swallow up our territorial rights. Hearing talk of such dangers made Chansu incredulous. What? Why would it swallow territorial rights? Can you even eat that? He hurriedly opened the system to check the status of his territorial rights. When he confirmed they were still intact, he breathed a sigh of relief. At least it hadn't eaten them. If it wasn't targeting ownership, then why had it come here? Rohan crunched the large apple in his hand. It was his snack for the cat. Chansu glanced at the tiny black cat with concern. Well, it's not really a cat, is it? To his surprise, the calamity bit through the whole pile of catnip. It's actually getting smaller. Impossible. He cautiously reached out and poked one of the withered leaves to test it. As a result, his blossoming power flourished, blessing prosperity. The territorial predator's face shone brilliantly, as if countless flowers bloomed before its eyes. It walked over and rubbed against Chansu's pant leg as if accepting him. He felt the intensity of its gaze as it rolled onto its back. Was it asking him to touch it? He blankly reached out and stroked its soft fur. A very different feeling from touching the large, fluffy handle. Still, Chansu reminded himself to stay cautious. He shouldn't be deceived by its appearance after all. It's a calamity and must have a terrifying form too. While pampering and scratching its chin, he whispered, "If you guard this area, I'll let you eat as much catnip as you want. How's that?" It let out a single approving sound. He turned to ask expert Rohan for his opinion. "Looks like we'll be living together for a while. What should I call you?" Rohan finished his apple, cleared his throat, and said the name territorial predator was too long. So he simply shortened the cat's phonetic name to Yangshik. At once it puffed up and protested violently. Chansu produced a bunch of catnip as a hint and suggested, or call it Dakian. This time it didn't growl but thumped its tail. Was it asking for an explanation? It was more human-like than human. Chansu slowly spun a pretty comparison. "Your fur is like a star-filled night sky, and your eyes remind me of the bright moon. How about that?" The cat gave a soft little sound and licked his hand in agreement. Dakian seemed quite pleased with the new name. It looked like everything was settled smoothly, while Rohan, put off by that other name, was noticeably put out. So what's wrong with Yangshik? Chansu was left speechless at that strange name. Was he really serious? Suddenly the system notification chimed. "You have won the battle. As a victory privilege, you are awarded compensation of 1 billion. He couldn't help boasting to Rohan right away. "Rohan, the compensation is 1 billion. The system then continued. "The denial god has requested negotiations. Until negotiations conclude, the loser will be detained as prisoners." Before the money reached him, it was reclaimed, making him pout. "What? My 1 billion, give it back." A peaceful night fell over their greenhouse, the stars overhead shining down. Chansu couldn't sleep. He sat up and looked at the little ones. His voice was low and soft in the quiet air. "Goddess, when I was first sent here I was terrified and anxious, but thanks to you all I had a happy time here." He mumbled to himself, reflecting on what had happened. "Actually, today I met my parents." Chansu's heart ached with indescribable, mixed emotions. Even though it was only an illusion from a curse, it still made him feel happy. At that moment he was truly joyful from the bottom of his heart. Perhaps he missed them more than he thought. He clenched his fist and felt time keenly, and so he made his decision. Chansu vowed to himself and to the goddess that he would turn prosperity into the greatest power in the world. He tilted his head and looked at the radish sleeping peacefully beside him. His voice trembled with sorrow and promise. "I swear I'll help you regain your original form." The goddess, half dreaming, took his hand, tears unconsciously welling at the corner of her eye, until Chansu had to deal with frustration early the next morning. "Rohan, are you really going to do that?" He wanted to grab him by the head and shove it down. How could he keep living like that? A table of hot food sat untouched, while Rohan barely touched anything, just eating apples. Chansu couldn't stand watching him subsist like that. "Don't you know about protein, fats, and carbs? A balanced diet is essential." But he hugged an apple and turned away. "I'm not trying to steal it, am I?" He sighed in helpless exasperation and plopped down into a chair. The other little animals were nibbling at their food too. There are so many delicious things in the world. But seeing Rohan happily gnawing his apple made him furious. He wouldn't even consider eating anything besides apples. Rohan peeked at Chansu, who was holding his head in frustration and groaning. Oh my god. Suddenly a skewer with a slice of apple was thrust in front of him. Rohan pretended reluctance as he offered to share. Just one piece, no more, he shouted. I'm not doing this because I want to eat, give me a break, I grew them myself. Chansu, unable to force him, thought better of it. Why am I worrying about him? He's a sword saint. He can take care of himself. Seeing that, Rohan nibbled the apple. If you don't eat it, I will. He turned to the small animals to check and ask, has everyone eaten well? Before he finished, he saw them lying on their backs with full bellies. Didn't he? He even bent down to tenderly ask the goddess, did you enjoy your meal too? The moment he said it, it hit the others like a huge shock. He felt a bit guilty using that familiar tone. Rohan still didn't know the goddess's true identity, so maybe she'd forgive his casualness. But she froze completely. Ari tottered out scolding, how dare you speak disrespectfully to the goddess? What followed was a barrage of insults. You got good points, so now you think you can run wild. Chansu ignored the remarks. I'll explain later. He tried to calm the youngster's chaotic emotions. Calm down, while Rohan relaxed and sipped a glass of pure imperial apple juice. The piglet's snorting voice sounded from behind the annoyed Ari. Wait a second. It pushed up its glasses in a scholarly, mysterious manner as if it had found the solution. Could the apostle have done this on purpose? Ari, suspicious of the glasses it wore, said, what are you talking about? Where did those glasses come from? It shook its stubby wings. You're so stupid, that swordsman doesn't even know who the goddess really is. Doji, putting on an air of learnedness, pointed out the odd detail. Didn't the apostle speak to the goddess so formally that he practically dug his own grave? Immediately the little chicken's wing reached out and grabbed its thick, fatty skin. The expression on Ari's face turned terrifyingly threatening. Try that mocking tone again and see what happens. The glasses fell, causing Doji's intelligence to plummet. I want to eat an apple. Curious, Ari put the glasses back on it. Its face went sullen. Can you drop this and speak like a gentleman? Without the glasses it looked innocent and blameless. Apple. It didn't hesitate to beat up the piglet and smash the glasses. Chansu stood up and everyone turned to look at Rohan, urging, are we ready to go now? The goddess's eyes welled up when she learned he was about to leave. Hey, Sujin is coming soon. He left one final message before departing. Take good care of the house. Yet he noticed the goddess energetically waving the goddess. Really? Chansu awkwardly rubbed her head, unsure what to say. I didn't mention the battle because I was afraid she'd forbid me from going out. But it turns out she already knew. Maybe the skull passed on the message. Still, he could not leave, so he bent down and patted her head. I'll be back soon, can you wait for me a little while? Rohan, seeing his affection, cleared his throat softly. He spoke, looking at him seriously. I have something to tell you. Chansu followed him to the side, puzzled. What is it? A new piece of information reached him. The flow of time differs in each world. Even between Earth and this place, time passes differently. It's hard to read Rohan's expression, but he was sincere. So don't rush things. Chansu was relieved and smiled. Thank you for everything. Are we really leaving now? He couldn't help but notice the little ones staying behind at the other house. The goddess wiped her tears as the little ones waved at him. Suddenly Chansu had a bright idea. Hamdal, you're coming with us, right? He reached into his pocket dimension and pulled out something. Did you think I bought this for show? Hamdal dashed over, eyes shining with eager expectation. It was a ventilated ball made just for hamsters. Want to be with your pet hamster everywhere you go? Worry no more, this hamster carrier lets you travel together anywhere. Once everything was ready, Hamdal hopped around inside the carrier. Okay, shall we go now? It's time to expand our territory. The door opened, linking two different dimensions together. Chansu was happy to see her. Oh, you arrived early. He smiled and waved toward Rohan, who had just stepped out of the door behind him. Thanks to Rohan's help, things weren't as difficult as I thought. Sujin gaped in disbelief as Chansu continued. He even agreed to handle security for a while. She panicked and whispered, Wait, how did you two show up together like this? He glanced at Rohan, casually chewing an apple, and answered Sujin. Rohan and I decided to live together for the foreseeable future. She sighed and rubbed her forehead helplessly. I had a feeling, but I never expected it to turn out like this. You really do always surprise people. Sujin looked down at the black cat curled around her feet and changed the subject. By the way, where did you get this little guy? Chansu explained. He came here on his own. His name is Dakian. Sujin paused mid-reply when he produced the transparent globe with Hemdoli inside. It's real. She quickly finished her sentence and moved closer to greet the little mouse. So smart, Hemdoli? You're here too? Chansu smiled as she played with it. Yeah, I find him extremely clever. He remembered the time it burrowed underground, so smart it knew that if it ate the territory core determining the catnip field's existence, the entire field would be destroyed. Chansu set Hemdoli's glass ball on the ground while Sujin, standing beside him, shared her insight. A monster that's both smart and cute like this is rare. If you caught it and sold it, plenty of people would buy it, he replied as he watched Hemdoli roll its ball over to Dakian. But that would be tough. The little mouse cheerfully rolled right up next to him. Dakian, holding a leaf, glanced indifferently at Hemdoli. Sujin shrugged. If it's hard to catch, just set up a trap. Dungeon monsters will gather there on their own. Chansu realized, so that's another way to use it. An image popped into his head of a shadowy monster looking around in confusion. Where did everyone go? He rubbed his chin thoughtfully. He currently had 443 loyal customers, and there were surely many more out there who might be useful later. He turned to Sujin. Anyway, since it came from a different region, that would make things a bit difficult. She looked over, puzzled. A different region? From where? Chansu answered, it came here by itself, so that's unclear. Sujin startled, her face going slightly pale as she looked at him. Could it possibly be a person turned into a cat? Chansu explained to her, unaware that Dakian was drooling with its mouth open over Hemdoli's glass globe. According to Rohin, Dakian is a territory-devouring entity. Sujin, engrossed in talking to him, didn't notice the scene here and asked again, a territory-devouring being? The little mouse jumped in fright as Chansu's voice reached it. Yes, that's right, Sujin said, embarrassed and confused. Is there really a monster with that name? Dakian's expression was terrifying, drooling. One paw planted on the glass globe, leaving Hemdoli terrified. Chansu recalled that it might not be just a monster but one of the 7 great calamities. Sujin burst out laughing. Aha, so it's that territory devourer. Suddenly she grabbed his wrist tightly. Sujin, crying, dragged Chansu and quickly stepped to the side. She shouted in panic alongside his loud cry. Why is one of the 7 great calamities here? The two of them dove into a patch of bushes. Sujin shoved him so hard Chansu fell to the ground. She panicked and yelled. There's even a record that it not only devours territorial rights but devastates entire regions. My ostrich tail resin. Why would such a calamity show up here? Chansu reluctantly pushed himself up. Well, for now we guess it came because of the catnip. Sujin looked at him puzzled. It's not really a cat, so why would it stay put just for catnip? Faced with the question, Chansu shrugged and offered his guess. I don't know the whole story either, but maybe it's something like that. Chansu explained some basics. To claim an area you need at least 200,000 points. He remembered that pile of catnip spreading blessings across the catnip field cost less than 10,000 points. Chansu told her that outwardly the difference looked 20-fold, but absorption efficiency can vary depending on the form. If you compare the two side by side, the gap becomes clear. For example, if the ratio is 1 to 90, for Dakian this area would be worth 2,000 points. While the catnip would be worth 9,000 points, a more than 3-fold difference. He propped one hand against a large root behind him. Of course, that's not an exact ratio, and we don't even know if it's accurate. Chansu pushed himself up from the ground, but as the chosen one he really had no other choice. Sujin asked him in alarm, It'll be okay, right? I don't want to come home someday and find everything gone. Chansu wasn't certain. Cats are territorial animals, right? Maybe at least it'll defend this area. Suddenly a piercing cry cut through their conversation, making Chansu snap his head toward the sound. The glass globe shattered. He sprinted to the black cat. Dakian, no, stop. Chansu screamed when he saw Dakian gnawing on the little mouse. Hemdoli is not food. He snatched Hemdoli back urgently. You bastard, I introduced you so you could be friends. He snatched Hemdoli back. You bastard. I introduced you so you could be friends. Dakian, robbed of its meal, didn't care and merely scratched its ear indifferently, an attitude that left Chansu exasperated. Not even listening, huh? He glanced at Rohin, arms crossed and calmly standing to one side. Rohin, Why are you just standing there watching? A bit of apple crust still clung to his mouth. His serious expression didn't change. If anything had happened, I would have stopped it, he said. Chansu shouted in disbelief. Hamdoli was almost eaten. He helplessly bent down to check on the little mouse, who was sobbing pitifully. Are you okay? Sujin hurried over, concerned. Hamdoli, are you hurt? We'll have to be careful until they get used to each other. Once everything seemed fine, she brought up a new topic. By the way, Chansu, there's actually something I need to tell you. He turned to her, puzzled. More issues? If it's about the ostrich tail resin, I've already seen the message. Chansu forced a smile and replied, Wow, what a strange con artist just over an apple. She grew serious and continued, right? But listen, he claims that. Sujin went on, because the apple carries the blessing of prosperity. As an apostle of prosperity, he also has a claim to it. Hearing this, Chansu stared at her in mild disbelief. Huh? She mentioned an apple that looked obviously fake. He even brought an apple to prove he was an apostle of prosperity, but compared to the emperor apple, it was just a cheap knockoff. Sujin breathed a sigh of relief. He even brought a forged contract to use a counterfeit prosperity artifact. So we can completely dismiss his claim now, thank goodness. Seeing him say nothing, she finally looked up at Chansu. Noticing him bow his head with a gloomy expression, Sujin asked, What's wrong? Chansu clenched his fist, thinking to himself, There are other apostles besides me? He recalled the image of the ginseng plant trembling on the ground. It had never revealed itself before. He also remembered the kids swarming around Hamdoli, playing, yet now someone was claiming ownership and calling themselves prosperity. A big doubt arose in him. Was that person actually the true apostle from the start? Chansu said seriously, Hey Sujin, we need to find that person. Seeing his demeanor, she asked curiously, Do you know him? Hamdoli gaped, sensing he was about to reveal the truth. No, actually. Chansu looked her straight in the eye and said seriously, I am the apostle of prosperity. Sujin was stunned, shouting in surprise. What? Chansu's face darkened and he turned away. You know what people say, money can command even demons. Put a bounty on them. He picked up the bright red apple from the ground. I'll pay extra for that artifact. Chansu held up an apple as big as his head, his eyes sharp as he looked at her. And if we capture him alive, the reward will be 100 emperor apples. Rohan, standing to the side, paused at that. He frowned slightly. 100 apples. Cut to a darker place. At the same time, somewhere in the small alley of the god of negation, a man in a black hooded cloak walked along, thinking to himself, to convince Rohan and his disciples, I'll need a death spirit. He clenched his teeth in anger. An apostle of the god of negation without a death spirit is like fried squid without squid, a bun without red bean filling, sushi without fish, army stew without ham, or a fish cake without fish. He pictured skeletons dropping apples from their hands and mused, I could use a low-grade death spirit, but the 5th-generation ones would definitely ruin things. A wooden door opened. An older man sitting in the shop cheerfully greeted him. Ah, look who it is, our penniless friend. The hooded man scowled irritably and replied, I'm a customer here, you know. He didn't want to say much and took the paper the shopkeeper put on the table. Fine, give it here. The shopkeeper handed the item over and asked, Where's the money? The cloaked man gritted his teeth against the pain and produced a large black gemstone. You'll accept raw materials too, right? The shopkeeper snatched the stone with an annoyed laugh. You have to let go before I can hold it. He clutched it tight, unwilling to release. You know I paid extra to get this from that old man, didn't you? The shopkeeper replied. Of course I know, he shouted back, I'm selling it below market price, you know. After a tiresome tug of war, the shopkeeper yanked the stone free from the man's hand. I'm not senile yet, you brat. He slumped, hanging his head. Give me a good price. The shopkeeper had no choice. Really, do you think I dig up money just like that? The man frowned sadly. This might be the last time we meet. We've known each other a long time, at least give me a discount. Will you? The shopkeeper squinted one eye, then relented and compromised. You sure know how to make me soft-hearted, don't you? He asked with interest. All right, you've been ruined searching for emperor apples, right? The man, at a loss for words, frowned. You're not talking about that ridiculous con artist, are you? The shopkeeper raised a hand and looked at him seriously. It seems it's not entirely like that. Even some enlightened people were fooled. He wore a self-satisfied look. Well, everyone knows that, but there's fresh news. The man, annoyed but restraining himself, urged, "Spill it." The shopkeeper's words startled the man. "There's a bounty on that con artist, 100 emperor apples if captured alive. More pay if the artifact is recovered." He curled his lips into a smile. The man immediately spun and left. "Thanks for the bounty." The shopkeeper called after him from behind, "If you're that grateful, remember to come back." He strode quickly down the empty road, his hurried steps unceasing, and finally found it. The man broke into a run, elated, his fierce face full of impatience.